long night, so we just get right into it. No time to waste. Please remember to like the video, share the video. If you're watching the replay, same rule apply. If you're not a subscriber, subscribe, click the notification bell, click all so you can get all notification. Please, where the live stream is concerned and you're watching back the replay and you're watching the live comments, please pay attention to what Nightbot is posting in the live comments. All the information that is direly necessary has been updated on the platform, so please pay attention to Nightbot, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much. All right, let's get into it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, so in this one, Colonel Charles Jr. exposes himself, and I would be remiss if I did not record this and post this video. Please listen to Colonel Charles' last part of his speech. Listen to this.
Sectoral tomorrow at our press conference. Let me wind down, Mr. Speaker, with the roofs. I want to now turn to one of the government's most significant recovery interventions, the restoration of owner or occupant family shelter, the roofs program. Mr. Speaker, on behalf of the many persons that have received support, whether it is mattress, food package, light, grant, whatever support you receive, roof, I want to thank Prime Minister and government for being responsible, for being strategic, for being disciplined. I've heard the narrative being created by some, but I'm sure that the people of Jamaica are thankful that they had a government that could allocate $1 billion swiftly to give you support. And a government that would not whimsically use donations, but rather would strategically have those donations connected to areas of development, such as building the houses for the people who need it the most. Yes. Mr. Speaker, more than 115,000 assessments have been done, and I want to take a few seconds to thank every member of the Ministry of Labour and Social Security team, all of the ministries across government, all of our volunteers, churches, the World Food Program, my friend.
So I want to provide context. You hear what he said about whimsical a while ago? So he's suggesting that the People's National Party is saying that they should whimsically spend the money. What does whimsically mean? Whimsically means doing something in a playful and imaginative manner, or lightly unpredictable lightly unpredictable way. It describes actions or creations that are full of fancy, right? Often characterized by charmingly odd and quirky ideas rather than strict logic. So basically what he's saying is that the logic of the People's National Party in regards to spending the money is not logical. I want you guys to focus on that word, stay on it. I'm going to come back to it, but I wanted to point that out. Let's continue. The disrespect, and because it's a big word, that most people won't look up, which I will, that I have. And he think that he can just use that word and just lie to the people of Jamaica. But let's continue.
All of the international communities, supporters, everyone that has played their part, that has been on the ground, beating the pavement for us to reach to more than 115,000 persons assessed. 43,000 have been verified. More than 80% of that have redeemed their benefit. And now, we have listened. We understand that there have been issues. There have been clogs at the collection points, unresolved beneficiary issues. Some phone numbers are wrong. Tiering can't be validated. All of these things have happened. And we move now to roofs phase 2, where we ask members of parliament, instead of identifying issues and carrying them onto social media, we want you to identify them. Yes, you. We understand that you are being bombarded, and we want your support to identify them and carry them to us to work together so we can resolve those issues.
Jamaica, what a utter disgrace. And I'm going to tell you why. This government, that is the government of going to social media when they were in opposition, has the audacity to tell the People's National Party while in opposition that instead of they should go to the media, go to social media and talk about the failures of the government. No, they should come to them and they should dialogue with them, as if the People's National Party was not doing that from the jump, as if the People's National Party was not communicating ideas with them, how to get things done in a quick, efficient and accountable manner, which I will play the video later on in this reaction to show you as such. But let me just play this for you, ladies and gentlemen. Let me play this for you where Andrew Holness did not take the advice of Pernell Charles, right, in his days of opposition. The hypocrisy, the audacity of this man to come with this narrative. Remember this? Who remember this? Oh my God, what is this? Who remember this? Let me play the tape for you. Alright? Let's go back. Who remembers this? This is the Gleaner. This was an interview with Andrew, and something had happened with his gas. And listen to what Andrew Holness said about this situation, ladies and gentlemen.
It's on the ground. We'll bring information to people where they are and in the forms they use.
And also it shows that our party leader is on the ground, suffering the same pressures that the average Jamaican. In terms of going to a gas station, you don't know which one have good or bad gas, and has purchased bad gas.
Can you imagine, on that instance, I was...
What is this? Computer freeze up.
about to take my wife to church in our constituency. We didn't intend to film the car. It was an intention of filming me taking my wife to church, what would be our day like in the constituency, that kind of thing. What role would I be playing there? And it so happens that when we went into the car, it wouldn't start. and that became the story rather than me taking my wife. and that became the story rather than me taking my wife to church. So she was saying to me, hurry. And I'm pressing the button and the car wouldn't start. We took the car to a mechanic who recommended that we get a particular treatment and a booster cleaner and a particular treatment. And then we went to the Heal the Nation on Wednesday. We went to the Heal the Nation convention at the arena. The car was driving perfect to find them. But when we hit the highway, it just lost power until it shut down. I thought we drove out the first one and we refilled at a different station. And apparently another bout of bad gas. But you see, I think what has happened is that my guy don't know, I'm just speculating. I suspect that it has so clogged the injectors that right now it is now in the garage. I don't know what has happened, and tomorrow I'll get the full diagnosis from the mechanic. But I suspect that between engine and injectors that I will have a serious repair there.
And therefore, when he speaks to the issue of bad gas, from first time experience.
People who make that kind of criticism don't understand media. You use all forms of communication. And that is my job is to bring to the public the political understanding. I get a sense from Jamaicans that there are some Jamaicans who want to make excuses for government failure. This is an ultimate failure of the government. It's a political issue. Make no mistake about it. From our perspective, the law gives the minister a duty to supervise, oversee, and regulate the petroleum industry. There is a failure in that. So I am not apologizing to anyone who thinks that in my job I'm politicizing. Of course, it is a political matter. And one must also make the point. As it was in healthcare, we too face certain crises. We too face threats. But the Jamaica Labour Party, political administration of the government, did not have the results as the PNP had with GOVT and other threats and dead babies. Why is it that these things happen under the PNP administration and not under the Jamaica Labour Party administration? That's a different political administration. We have two different political views on how things should be managed.
The little things that makes a difference.
Yes.
When you clean the drains,
So I'm not going to make any apologies or give any succor to those people who would want to see the Labour Party keep quiet on important issues, political though they may be, but they do impact upon the quality of life that people live. I make no apologies for that.
So, Mr. Dwayne Vaz and other members of the People's National Party, anytime any of the members of the Jamaica Labour Party come into Parliament and tell you that you're politicizing anything, all you have to do is play that tape. Don't make no apologies. It is a political issue, and you are supposed to highlight the failures of this administration, which are many. So you will be busy highlighting many different failures. Let's continue. Damn out of all.
We are moving. We are moving further to cabinet approval. Yes. From providing billing material and cash grant to now direct cash payments. Yes, yes. So it will remove all the barriers of moving proximity and going there. Direct deposit payments in roofs phase 2. And we understand that there are some persons in phase 1 that are yet to carry through there. They too will be eligible for this now direct deposit. I know this will help the people of Jamaica. Number 2, we have an advance a national verification and recovery drive. In this national verification and recovery drive, all members of parliament, all councillors, church leaders, community leaders, everybody come together to help the people who need the help the most.
Please pay attention to this statement. Note it. All the society come together to make it happen. Pay attention. Merle, big up yourself.
Identifying them.
Hello, I'm Chef Sean Leonard.
Pay attention to that comment, ladies and gentlemen. I'm telling you, the hypocrisy. It's real.
Leaders, everybody come together to help the people who need the help the most. Instead of identifying them, let us help them. So where you have unresolved cases, tier invalidation issues, duplicate submissions, if they come to you and say, I was assessed and I don't get my grant, put that information together, give it to us, and we will work together. And I want to acknowledge many members of parliament on that side and on this side have.
Why did you even mention that? If many members on that side has already done that, all you're doing is admitting to your failure, because they have done it and you still have not done the job. You still have not. You guys did not have any intention to work with the People's National Party. But let's continue.
Already started that process. We thank you. Step 3, we're going to advance the roofs access initiative that will prioritize vulnerable households. So where you have persons with disabilities, senior citizens, medically vulnerable, we will work together to identify them and give them the support. Number 4 is a community coordination and outreach support, which means we are coming to you. We will be in the field working with you, not separate, to make sure that we can identify the persons who need the help, resolve their issues. And
why didn't you guys do that from the beginning? Working backwards. Let's continue.
Give them their support. Lastly, on the step
Suzette, how are you doing?
we're modernizing systems with stronger accountability. And so we'll be using digital platforms, which you will see, to give them that access. That close. Jamaica grows stronger when its people are empowered to succeed. Not when systems are built or programs are announced, but when people feel the difference. The domestic worker receiving dignity, the vulnerable.
I mean, just look at the MP there, saying, in her mind, she must be saying, look at this hypocrite. How convenient of him while doing this speech to be saying all the things he's saying. And I'm going to tell you why he's a hypocrite and all of the members of the Jamaica Labour Party. Let's continue.
The family accessing faster, the young person securing employment, the person with disability accessing opportunity, the family rebuilding after Hurricane Melissa. The ministry, just 2 minutes. The ministry is not simply
Justin, good night.
programs. Hear me now. We are transforming how those programs reach the people who need the help the most. From PATH to unemployment insurance to roofs, the mission remains the same. Moving beyond just systems that delay people to building systems that deliver impact, because systems don't build a country. People do. Yeah. When we place people at the center, Jamaica will not simply rebuild. Jamaica will rebuild stronger. Thank you.
So you heard the hypocrite. You heard You heard the hypocrisy and the lies. Let's go back, ladies and gentlemen, to the People's National Party first press conference. And I want you to listen to all the recommendations that Mark Jefferson Golding made to the government, how to approach this situation of building back better and helping the people in a swift manner. Listen to this.
Mark Golding, the leader of the opposition.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, Jamaica. Good afternoon, members of the media and all listeners.
And for full context, this was November 3rd, 5 days after the storm. Let's continue.
I want to begin by expressing my profound, heartfelt condolences to the families and friends of those who have lost their lives in this tragic hurricane or its aftermath. Our sympathies also extend very profoundly to those thousands, tens of thousands, perhaps hundreds of thousands of Jamaicans who are suffering at this time from the impact, the calamitous impact that this hurricane has had. And we are aware, of course, that there are levels of destruction. There's a large ground zero, as it's called, which is really the areas of Jamaica that were in the swathe of the hurricane when the eye hit in eastern Westmoreland, stretching into St. Elizabeth, stretching into the more westerly parts of Westmoreland as well, and then moving north into South St. James, parts of Hanover, and of course, Trelawney and even St. Anne. The rest of Jamaica has also suffered damage, some of it before the hit of the hurricane. And so we can't leave them out because there are communities all over the island where people are in a very difficult situation, whether it be due to no access with roads being blocked or breakaways, landslides, and so on. Our hearts go out to all who are in this dire predicament now. Now, I would say that this hurricane and its aftermath represent an existential threat to our society as we know it. People in life-threatening situations of isolation and deprivation mean that unless relief can reach them promptly and unless the necessary assistance can be found and distributed in an equitable and transparent manner to help them rebuild their lives, Jamaica is going to be facing very difficult times. And I think that point is not lost on anyone who is familiar with what is going on as I speak. In this context, we all need to pull together in unity to get Jamaica through this terrible disaster. This is a time to join hands and hearts, not just in words, but in deeds, so that the whole nation can feel part of responding positively to this devastating situation and the solutions that will help us to pull ourselves out of it.
So right off the rip, Mark Golding was talking about the necessity, the urgent need for everybody to unite and come to the table to figure out how we're going to respond effectively to this disaster that just hit. After 5 days, Jamaica, 4 days after the storm, they came out. Or 5 days, well, 5 days or 6 days after the storm. 28, 29, 30, 31, I think it's 31 days in October. I'm not certain. But 5 or 6 days after the storm. And Mark Golding came out and said this, right off the rip. And then he went into further detail. Listen to this.
The opposition must not at this time be seeking to score political points as a political competitor of the government. This is not the time for the opposition to adopt that posture. And
Jamaica, because of this, a lot of PNP said that Mark Golding was soft. Because they strategically and with principle decided, listen, we're not going to play politics. We're going to give the government a chance to prove themselves. And we're going to give them an olive branch and say, here we are here to help sincerely. That's what the People's National Party did. What did the government do? They spit on them, Jamaica. And I'm going to show you that they spit on them. in words and in action. Let's continue.
We are indeed trying our very best to operate in the spirit of that. On the other hand, there are areas of need and what we see as the priorities in relation to those needs, where we see weaknesses in the response mechanisms that need strengthening or correcting, and we must provide, where we can, constructive, well-intentioned suggestions to help navigate the country through this disaster. We must also demand transparency and fairness in the distribution of all relief. The relief must get to those who need it, prioritizing those who need it most, whether they be of whatever political color or whatever demographic group they may belong to. They're all Jamaicans, and they are to be treated equally in this time without any form of discrimination or tribal politics coming into it. And we want to stand for that. There can be no place for partisanship or profiteering by political insiders or others connected to them at a time like this. It requires good governance, inclusive governance, authentic communication, and everyone working together. I now move to some of the things that I wish to propose
Listen up.
in this regard. I have proposed to the Prime Minister from last week, Wednesday, that he should establish a broad-based task force to be given the responsibility of governance oversight over the relief effort, the relief coming, how it is dealt with, how it is distributed, not to manage that process on a day to those who are managing it. So there's some accountability done, and that accountability is being the support and confidence of the whole society, especially those who are suffering terribly now and no doubt fear that they may not be treated fairly or they may be ignored or overlooked in the response of the state to the crisis.
Jamaica, people were overlooked. People have not gotten any help. They have been assessed. They are the ones that are most vulnerable, and they were not given they were not given any help, Jamaica, or any assistance. But what he was suggesting here is the unification of everybody. All the MPs, especially the MPs in the area, the councillors, the people on the ground that know the people and could help with assessments and get people help as fast as possible. And the government did not, and absolutely did not, take the advice of. So when Colonel Charles come into Parliament talking about, yes, we're into phase two. Now you want to unite in phase two when the damage is already done. 7 months after the storm, people are suffering still, talking about phase two. But let's continue. Good night, Justin.
I also think there needs to be a clear command structure for the actual day-to-day management of the response to the relief. And that should be led, in my opinion, by professionals in disaster management, not by politicians who do not know the ins and outs of responding to a disaster of this magnitude. And we should not be shy of seeking international support and help from persons who have career expertise and experience in this regard. Thirdly, we're going to need a Marshall Plan, a well-funded, broad-based plan for the rebuilding and reconstruction of large swathes of Jamaica which have been ravaged by this hurricane. That plan cannot be developed today, but it is vital that we prepare such a plan and that it have the inputs of persons who have the necessary skills and experience and knowledge to design a comprehensive, workable plan that can be executed efficiently and that can have the confidence of our international partners we are going to rely on heavily to provide the financial support for this.
So Jamaica, he was also talking about getting the technocrats together, all of the persons that has the expertise, the brain box, right, to come together to formulate a structured plan moving forward. There was no unity. JLP just did their own thing, and no one wants to include the People's National Party after they failed the people and suffer them.
And in terms of more specific recommendations now, I have asked the Prime Minister to make an additional allocation of resources to members of parliament so that they can mobilize communities and contractors to help with the cleaning up of communities that are currently in a state of devastation, clear roads where necessary, cutting trees and the like. Parliament are unable to respond to the needs of the people unless they happen to have some personal resources or access to dealing with it outside of the public system, and many do not have that. I would also say that the process of engaging contractors to do that kind of work should be and made easy for members of parliament, especially in those areas where there's very limited connectivity and where following the normal bureaucratic processes that are required would be very challenging or impossible for members of parliament. If contractors have a TRN, whatever the allocation is, there should be invoices, and those invoices can be submitted, but the work should be able to begin. Secondly, we note and agree with the decision to suspend the imposition of import duties and import GCT on disaster relief items coming into Jamaica. However, we believe that the period for which this has been announced is too short, because the time it takes to mobilize funding and make the necessary procurement abroad, the logistics, etc., of getting it shipped to points on land where they can then be shipped or flown to Jamaica takes some time. And to have it cut off by the end of this month is too short. And it's also not clear from the announcement that was made whether goods in transit to Jamaica will get the benefit, even if they haven't landed here at the time of the expiry of the window. I'm suggesting that we recast that window in a way which is more realistic, given the situation that we face. I also think we need an evacuation plan urgently for persons who are without shelter. That needs to be well thought through so that persons can be moved to places of safety where whatever form of accommodation can be erected to support them, whether it be tents or something else that can be put in place, and they can have access to the basic means of survival in an organized way. And that is necessary because right now we have people, many Jamaicans who are exposed to the elements, including babies, including children, including the elderly, including persons with disabilities. They need to be moved to accommodation which protects them from the ravages of the elements going forward.
Jamaica, people still are in those elements right now. Tapal in the Malivanda. 7 months after, a failure of the government. All the things that Mark Golden warned about to help and make sure that people are not suffering and in a suffering state. They ignored them, ladies and gentlemen. Talk him a talk. We are doing our own thing. And here we are.
Those are my thoughts. And I'm now going to hand over to the next MP.
So awesome. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Mark Jefferson Golden, right? Exposing. This exposes Colonel Charles Jr.'s argument in the parliament. Talking about, yes, all the MPs, instead of going on social media and talking about it, why not come and unite with us and talk about 7 months ago they wanted to unite. And your Andrew Onis said no, and I'm going to show you the icing on the cake of how much he said no. Let me find the tape. Let me find it. I apologize, I should have had this ready now. But it is what it is. It's in my history, don't worry. But I want to play it on the computer because I'm recording this reaction. So, un momento, por favor. What? I don't need all of that. There we go. Amazing. I'm not even on TikTok live tonight. It's all about YouTube. So share this live, please. Thank you. And like the live. I appreciate it in advance. Where is it? Ah, here it is. Amazing. Wonderful. Send it to my computer. And then you can unpause the reaction and play it for this particular reaction. This is the icing on the cake right here. Yes, wonderful. Amazing.
Management from
Only
the
here.
All right, so here's the icing on the cake, my people, to show you that this government had no real intention of incorporating the People's National Party into the recovery plan. And now they want to do it after they have failed the people of Jamaica. Listen to this.
Only here this.
the pandemic.
Hear this.
When the leader of the opposition and myself met,
Yes.
he expressed to me that he would want to have a role
Yes.
in the recovery, and that was not something that I objected to.
Oh, you never object.
I still, however, have to figure out how does that work.
Andrew Holness just admitted that he can't figure out after all this time, how Mark Golding is going to have a role in the recovery process. He still can't figure that out, More want to make that digest. More of that go down and wash and just, when you drink one nice cup of coffee and you feel it all the way down in your intestine, your belly feel a relief and you bust a gas. More want to remember, say, Andrew Holness just said, him still figure out how Mark Golding can be a part of a role in the recovery process. How Mark Golding can have a role in the recovery process. Ladies and gentlemen, I find it so hard. It's so hard for him to figure out a role for Mark Golding in the recovery process. What little he must think of Mark Golding? These are questions. What little he must think of Mark Golding that he can't figure out how a man that know business, a man as smart as Mark Golding, right? The leader of the opposition, a successful businessman, he can't figure out how Mark Golding is going to have a role in the recovery process. Andrew Holness, you're skilling, brother. He's a dangerous guy. You're wicked. Yo, Andrew Holness too wicked, brother.
The framework of our system is we have a parliament.
Yes.
This is the ultimate forum
Yes.
in which we meet and debate.
Uh-huh.
And I have said, hold on, I've said, listen, let us establish a special committee. It wouldn't be a
What do you say?
It has gone beyond an opinion. That's a fact now. He never had any intention of Mark Golding and the People's National Party playing any role. And we can all speculate that it's a result of wanting to engage in corruption. Yes, because look at the Auditor General report of ODPEM. All the reports that have come out. The report of the, Starlinks of it. But I digress. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Hypocritical. See the hypocrite, them a galang there. That is it. Let's move on, ladies and gentlemen.
Building systems that deliver impact, because systems don't build a country. People do. And when we place people at the center, Jamaica will not simply rebuild.
Bro, can you
Jamaica.
please stop? Just, thank you. Oh my God. Well, this is definitely not the right one. I went to the wrong live stream. Oh, there we go. Right here.
The member from Clarendon North.
Alright, so ladies and gentlemen, this one is all about waving hands. And he did an excellent job. I'm going to do my reaction to it. Let's get into his speech, ladies and gentlemen, without any further ado. Please remember to like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and click all if you have not already. Let's go.
The dignified Mr. Speaker, I rise today to make my presentation to this honorable House for the 2026 sectoral debate. I do so on behalf of the resilient, dignified, and proud people of Northern Clarendon. A people who understand struggle, sacrifice, and survival. To my family, my supporters, my formidable team, thank you for grounding me in this journey of public service. I also want to thank my colleagues, and specifically the Leader of the Opposition, for entrusting me with this honor.
That's right.
Mr. Speaker, today is also special to me as I make my presentation during Workers' Week. I want to salute the unyielding workers of Jamaica who have built the bedrock of our democracy, from our private sector workers.
Get the lights up for me, guys, please.
To the informal workforce. I extend my profound gratitude to the men and women who have kept this nation moving forward. I also extend my congratulations to the IDT on their ongoing 50th anniversary celebration. Mr. Speaker, I begin today with what should have been an uncomplicated national celebration. This August, cricket fans will pack the stands at Savannah Park to welcome our brand new local franchise, the Jamaica Kingsmen. The CPL franchise is finally returning to Jamaica after a long, painful absence, which has left our local fans starved of home-ground tournament action since 2019. Now, Mr. Speaker, I can already see the members on the opposite side puffing their chests. I see the Minister of Sports, Member Grange, and her PR team preparing for the photo ops and the ribbon cutting. But before they try to take a lap of honor, let us remind this honorable House that it was not by accident that the Jamaican talent was left our beautiful shores. For years, private sectors have been pleading for meaningful structural support, strategic partnership, and a vision with no avail. The franchise packed up and left Jamaica because this administration refused to create an environment in which professional sports can survive sustainably. The Jamaica Talents, like so many Jamaicans, were neglected, starved of their own home, and driven away by the governmental indifference. So, to the members opposite, I say this earnestly. You cannot purposely mash up the house, leave the yard empty for years, wait for private investors to rebuild it, and then expect the public to treat you like heroes for standing in the doorway.
My God. Shots fired.
We welcome the franchise, but let us not confuse private sector rescue missions with governmental support. We are glad that the Kingsmen are awake because the government has been fast asleep. Mr. Speaker, before we talk about economy of play, we must talk about the reality of work.
Embarrassing.
Athletes are workers. Under this administration, the entire labor landscape is fractured.
That is embarrassing.
Mr. Speaker, the Minister of Labour spoke immediately before me in this debate, and while I listened closely to his presentation, I found it highly unfortunate that its carefully crafted talking points did not address the harsh systemic realities on the ground that his ministry continues to overlook.
Embarrassing.
Member Angela Huber spoke eloquently and extensively during her contribution the broader macroeconomic challenges facing Jamaican workers. However, as Shadow Minister, I must narrow our focus to the immediate dangerous policy gaps, leaving our workforce exposed. Let us consider the occupational hazard that the Minister spoke about earlier, and I heard the promise.
Here's the thing about women.
Of legislation has been dragged. Let us consider the occupational hazard that the Minister spoke about earlier, and I heard the promise. This vital piece of legislation has been dragged through the corridors of bureaucracy by this administration for 3 consecutive terms. Generation after generation of Jamaican workers have gone to their graves waiting for modern-day safety laws.
Whoa.
While the government continues to delay our citizens, especially those in the rapidly expanding construction sector are stepping onto job sites without adequate, modernized legislative protection, risking their lives in workplaces that may be dangerously under-regulated. This is not administrative delay, this is policy negligence. 3 terms of SUCOM policy is an active failure of the government towards the Jamaican working class.
Wow.
We are therefore calling for the passage of OSHA in this legislative year. Furthermore, Mr. Speaker, let us consider the plight of our private security guards. 4 years ago, this government removed the legal distinction that separated security guards' minimum wage from the regular national minimum wage. By flatlining that structure, they effectively froze specialized wage adjustments for the men and women who face the highest risks protecting our banks, our schools, and our lives.
True.
Yet, this specialized hazard pay has been entirely eliminated. I now turn to another deeply concerning trend, the expansion of the unregulated work program arrangements for our carrier workers. These individuals function as logistics backbone of the commerce, yet they are treated as perpetual independent contractors. Stripped of basic job security, sick leave, severance protection. Similarly, our small farmers, fisher folks, the very people who feed this nation remain entirely outside of the safety network, Structural pathways to mandate incentive, the inclusion
everybody tired tonight. People not active in a chat at all.
Guaranteeing them dignity in retirement. Mr. Speaker, we recommend a robust labor policy comprising a long-term national development framework that connects education, employment productivity, worker protection, business growth, and social mobility. Such a strategy must first acknowledge Jamaica's harsh realities. We have a country where many workers struggle with functional literacy and digital skills, while at the same time, thousands of highly educated Jamaicans are underemployed, migrating, or trapped in systems. Workers, that is, are poorly enforced. Informal employment is widespread, and too many employers still operate with minimal accountability. Mr. Speaker, a fundamental flaw in our current labor framework is the chaotic fragmentation of how we manage our working. Essential components of the workforce capacity are scattered across separate uncoordinated silos. Employment matters are isolated under the Office of the Prime Minister. Skills issues sits at the Ministry of Education, and industrial relations and general labor issues are handled by the Ministry of Labor. This bureaucratic scatter means that workforce has no centralized access to support. If an individual needs upskilling, registration, or dispute resolution, they are forced to negotiate an uncoordinated maze of separate state agencies.
Wow.
I propose that we consolidate these fragments into a single cohesive bucket under the Ministry of Labor and Workforce Development. All workforce, training, legal protections, and certification programs belong under one administrative group, ensuring every working person has unhinged structural access to economic advancement. This strategy requires implementation of key localized measures, including but not limited to many of our adult digital literacy certification programs more accessible, especially to those living in rural Jamaica. Mr. Speaker, how do we expect a young man or woman in Northern Clarendon, in areas like Alien Town, Kellits, Gale Town, Crooked River, Aubrey Head, to advance in a global workforce when adult upskilling tools remain completely out of physical and digital reach?
My God.
We must establish targeted rural literacy skill building centers to lift up our people out of structural stagnation.
Of course. That's right.
Enforcing workers' rights, workplace protection, one of Jamaica's biggest labor failures, is not merely weak laws, but weak enforcement. Workers' rights without enforcement are meaningless. We must therefore strengthen enforcement capacity to reduce incidents of work abuse and exploitation, such as unpaid overtime, lack of contracts, denial of leave, and dismissal without due process. Reforming the security industry. The security industry is one of the clearest examples of structural labor exploitation.
Yes.
Thousands of security guards, excessive hours under dangerous conditions, while earning wages that often do not reflect.
Let me just cut in right here quickly. I used to be a security guard, and I know exactly what he's talking about. Yep. And the situation has gotten worse under the Jamaica Labour Party. Let's continue.
The risk of responsibility, and the job. We also should enforce employee classifications for security guards, including mandating pension and insurance coverage, and providing minimum training and certification standards. Security guards are essential workers and should not exist permanently in economic insecurity. Wage and productivity reform. Jamaica's economy has historically depended on how low wages in many sectors. Low wages do not create sustainable development. A modern labor strategy would connect wages to productivity and national growth. Labor market data and planning. Too often, we train workers without coordinated national planning. A coherent strategy requires leveraging real-time labor market data to forecast future industry needs and coordinate between universities and employers. Government policy must stop reaching unthinkingly and start planning strategically. Mr. Speaker, when labor policies fail and sport development stalls, you create a national disaster. The Great Jamaican Brain Drain. Let us look at the empirical data. The recent UND migration poll reveals an absolute, though not surprising, horror show for our future. 71% of Jamaican youth plan to migrate within the next few years.
Wow.
Nearly 3/4 of our young people are actively planning their exit strategy. And if you want to see
71% of our youth, the youth, is planning an exit strategy out of the country. And you're telling me that this is prosperity and this is good governance and they're managing everything, they're doing great. Wow. The only way they're doing great if they are intentionally. If the result is to push out the people of Jamaica that come from here, from Jamaica, out of the country, the government is doing an excellent job. From teachers to nurses to security, regular persons, youth, everybody wants to leave Jamaica because of the Jamaica Labour Party and how they have mismanaged the country. If that is their intention, they're doing an excellent job. If they are working for some entity outside of the country and their intention is to get rid of us, they are doing an excellent job. Even with the police unaliving us, they are doing an excellent job, ladies and gentlemen. Let's continue.
See exactly how this toxic reality plays out in the sporting world.
Crazy.
Look no further than the shocking ruling handed down just last month on April 16 by the World Athletics. Mr. Speaker, 4 of Jamaica's absolute finest elite field event superstars, our reigning 2024 Olympic men's discus champion Roger Stoner, our Olympic shot put bronze medalist Rajindra Campbell, our World Championship long jump silver medalist Wayne Pinnock, and our triple jump junior world record holder Jaden Hibbert all completed documentation to switch their national allegiance to Turkey.
Wow.
Not because they lack patriotism, but because like so many Jamaicans, they no longer see mobility, growth, or stability within the current system. Today I ask this house, why shouldn't we need some milk? Growth or stability within the current system. Today I ask this house, why should an Olympic gold medalist need to look elsewhere to secure his or her financial future?
Wow.
If you have belly fat after...
Wow.
Embarrassing.
We need some milk. This is because our local system is underfunding their potential. These athletes are watching other countries invest strategically in athletes' welfare, training infrastructure, rehabilitation, science, sponsorship structures, and professional development pathways, while Jamaica continues functioning on symbolism, patriotism, and outdated systems.
Wow.
The Sports Development Foundation public bodies document tells a sobering story. While administrative expenditures and executive salaries are climbing, funding for athletes' welfare decreased this year. We cannot continue asking our athletes to survive on vibes, speeches, flag waving. We can't keep underfunding our talent and then we act shocked when they look toward foreign borders.
Simple. Simple.
I now turn to the physical state of our sport infrastructure. On February 27, 2025, the Minister of Sports confidently assured the nation that the resurfacing of the running track at the National Stadium was fully on track to be completed on time. However, during the PAAC hearing, the Permanent Secretary with responsibility for sports admitted that the contractors received payment before certification was secured, leaving the track entirely uncertified by
Wow.
World Athletics.
Wow.
Yes. A specialized international measuring lab visited Jamaica in April to see if the track can be certified. We are now in May, and the ministry is sitting on a report from that investigation. Why is this important? Because next month, in June, we are hosting our national trials to select teams for the Commonwealth Games and the World Under-20 Champions. If one of our athletes, sprinters, or youngsters shatters a world record, that once-in-a-lifetime achievement will be completely erased from history due to administrative incompetence. World Athletics will refuse to ratify it because the track lacks international certification. The administration is actively playing Russian roulette with the life-changing career moments of our youth. For over 8 straight years, we have seen architectural drawings from different expensive firms. We are paying millions.
Hi, Sassy 81. How are you doing, love?
National Stadium.
Good night.
Monument and filling.
How are you? Where's your badge? You use it the next phone.
Mr. Speaker, let us consider the institutional deficiencies within the Jamaica Anti-Doping Commission, JADCO. At the Carifta Games, a brilliant Jamaican under-20 women's quartet clocked a blistering 42.58 seconds to smash the 4x100 world record. Let us cement their names into history. Serena Cole, Tia Clayton, and Brianna Lister. Mr. Speaker, JADCO committed a grave administrative oversight when they failed to test all 4 runners on the night of the race. Because of that gross procedural error, World Athletics invalidated that historic 42.5-year world record.
What a disgrace. I didn't even know this. Really? Oh my God.
We understand the implications. Do we understand the implications of this, especially for our young athletes? World records attract sponsorship. World records create leverage in contract negotiations.
Facts.
World records build global marketability.
Facts.
JADCO's mistake directly impacted earning power of the young Jamaican women.
Facts.
Yes, the team later returned to the World Under-20 Championships in Colombia and broke the world record again with a ratified 42.59 this time. But unfortunately, Brianna Liston was not a part of that final quartet because JADCO's failure, she permanently lost the opportunity to share that specific world record legacy. No administrative apology can restore that moment. Mr. Speaker.
You know, I am very impressed with Wavell Hines and this portfolio of his in terms of sports, given his history in sports. He understands, he gets it. And credit to Mark Golding for making sure that this man was definitely a part of the team. And he carries himself very well. Let's continue.
JADCO must pivot its operational model. Instead of allocating the lion's share of public funds towards holding centralized high-cost symposium in hotel conference rooms, which grassroots coaches and rural sporting associations simply cannot afford to attend, JADCO must decentralize. They must take their anti-doping education workshops out of the luxury hotels and bring them to community clubs and primary schools where the talent is born. Madam Speaker, let us expose the numbers directly from the audited books. If you look at the screen, the Sports Development Foundation's own financial statement tells an alarming trend in governance priorities. In 2024, the cost stood at 150 million. By 2025, that figure climbed to 166 million. And the projected administrative spend for 2026 has ballooned to a staggering 239 million. While bureaucracy costs are rising exponentially, capital development projects are being systematically choked. Funding for projects has been drastically cut, slashed from a high of 267 million in 2025 down to 152 million in 2026. What? The money gone in appeal. Worse yet, Mr. Speaker, look at the direct support for the people who sweat and bleed for this flag. The grants to athletes' welfare have been cut from 22 million in 2025 down to 21 million in 2026. Grants to the core sporting grants to the core sporting associations have plummeted from 202 million down to 172 million.
What?
These executives are taking more for administration while the local projects and the welfare of our players are given less. This has plunged our agency from a $132 million surplus in 2024 in a continuous structural deficit to date. Deficit. Madam Speaker, Mr. Speaker, I now want to turn to the financial commitments made by this administration. On September 23, 2023, Member Grange released a major media statement announcing a landmark 100 million investment for youth cricket development. The government reinforced this on March 12, 2024, when then Finance Minister Nigel Clark announced in his budget presentation that 40 million would be allocated in that fiscal year to kickstart the 3-year program. Well, Mr. Speaker, I hold the official document in my hand. I hold this official document in my hand, the truth, the statement to the members of the Jamaica Cricket Association on February 24, 2026. And let us read the unassailable timeline directly into the record. To date, out of the magnificent 100 million promise, the JCA has received $7 million.
What? $100 million promise? $7 million from Nigel Clark era? Oh my God. Wow. Let's continue.
$7 million. $7 million. Well, it's a little bit more than the hurricane people receive. But a single payment disbursed way back on February 18, 2025, that is less than 8% of the promised development fund. Mr. Speaker, let's just look at what this lack of sports tourism vision costs us. On the screen is the true economic impact of the ICC Men's T20 World Cup in 2024. Our regional neighbors submitted their bids, built their infrastructures, and reaped massive economic returns. Barbados generated $426 million US. St. Vincent and the Grenadines brought in $225 million. St. Lucia brought in $133 million US we're talking. Antigua brought in $114 million US. Guyana secured $77 million. And Trinidad and Tobago saw an economic impact of $69 million. And what did Jamaica make from this multi-million-dollar regional windfall? Zero. Zip.
No, this is embarrassing. You're telling me that we could have made the same amount of money as Barbados or more? 426.4 million. We already know the impact of Jamaica. You're telling me that how much money is that? No, hold on. No, I'm sorry. I didn't even plan for this. Like, no, wave lines are create waves. Let me go for my calculator. No, man. No. This is critical. 426 million US. Multiply that by 157. Let me say 155. You're talking about 66.03 billion Jamaican dollars from sports or more. You're telling me what? You're telling me that Jamaica, with our influence, could have potentially gained $100 billion, and we got zero. We laid an egg. Boy, you cannot make this up. Let's continue, man. Lord have mercy.
Because this government completely failed to submit a bid to host the World Cup matches. When they were pressured and criticized for this massive failure, they used the 100 million cricket fund announcement as a political shield. To quiet the public anger. Or a con, possibly. They failed our sports industry. They failed our sports tourism sector by not bidding for the World Cup. They promised 100 million in lieu of that failure, and today they have delivered less than 8%. of that promise.
Jesus.
A promise made must become a promise kept.
Yes.
And what are the real world consequences of this underfunding?
Yes.
While press conferences are plentiful, grassroots cricket continues to deteriorate. Look at our schools. Primary school cricket remains severely neglected by this government. In sport does community-based football and mainstream sports. But in sport, close them out. But in sport does absolutely zero grassroots development for cricket. Community programs remain inconsistent. Mr. Speaker, how do you expect the Jamaica Cricket Association to unearth and polish the next generation of cricketers, mastering in rural communities like Crosshill, Otterseat, Waterground, Bagol, Desire, Danzal, or even Morgan Spas, when the grassroots pipeline has been systematically starved? We are systematically eroding the foundational sport of the Caribbean out of the school's curriculum, leaving our local fields completely abandoned. The pipeline that once produced generations of West Indians excellent continues to weaken. Mr. Speaker, now is the time for the structural reform, not slogans, not press conferences, not photo ops, real, meaningful reform.
That's right. That's right.
Mr. Speaker, if you want to understand how broken our system is, let us look at our history. Sunshine Girls. On May 10, 2026, Netball Jamaica leadership put out a desperate public plea. Our netballers won a historic silver medal at the last Commonwealth Games. They are preparing for the upcoming global stage. Yet today, they are in an absolute crisis because they cannot afford a strength and conditioning coach due to severe financial constraints. Our international medalists are begging corporate Jamaica to chip in to fund a fitness trainer. It is an absolute embarrassment that a country with our brand equity forces our elite sportswomen to beg just to prepare for international representation. We must move back.
Something not right, my wisdom warriors. Something is not right. Tell about them.
Embarrassing.
We need some milk. The short-sighted model and capture the real economic sports. The economic with absolute embarrassment that a country with our brand equity forces our elite sportswomen to beg just to prepare for international representation.
Yo, I can't believe this. I never knew it was this bad. So even sports, bro, the man them even destroy with sporting reputation. The man them carry down to Pat's gravy. This government is a curse to blows and skirt. No, man.
We must move past the short-sighted model and capture the real economic sports. The economic data.
Yo, I'm genuinely shocked. I never knew all of this. This is my raw reaction.
The global sports industry is valued at...
I'm sorry to cut Wavy, but I'm genuinely shocked. I never knew all of this. I didn't listen to his speech, you know. This is my raw reaction to his speech. Wow. Wow.
Severe financial constraints.
Wow.
Our international medalists are begging corporate Jamaica to chip in to fund a fitness trainer. It is an absolute embarrassment that a country with our brand equity forces our elite sportswomen just to prepare for international representation.
Embarrassing.
We must move past the short-sighted model and capture the real economic sports. The economic data reveal a staggering global reality. The global sports industry is valued at $2.3 trillion US.
Whoa.
Today is on track to hit 7 trillion by 2032 and will reach an unimaginable 1.8 trillion by 2050.
Jada, I'm genuinely shocked.
For 20 years,
I never knew.
The UAE have completely dominated global cricket preseason training camps. But right now, due to intense geopolitical tensions, Dubai facilities are facing mass cancellations and teams withdrawals. International sporting families refuse to travel there. Tigers already capitalized on this window aggressively, launching a world-class sports science and recovery lab this coming January to pull global bookings. And what is Jamaica? We own the undisputed global brand equity for speed. Our brand value is applicable across track, football, netball, NFL wide receivers. Yet we have zero sports industry infrastructure. Many clubs and schools have raw ingredients for an elite academy, but they lack a strategic state partner. We are treating sports like a casual cultural asset, sitting on a gold mine while allowing foreign nations to extract wealth.
Wow. Wow.
Madam Speaker, I do not stand here merely to highlight structural cracks. Listen, member from St. Thomas Eastern. I stand here to offer a progressive roadmap to systemic remedies that we must urgently pursue to rescue and rebuild our local sporting ecosystem. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, I propose the following 4 definitive structural pillars. I propose a structured deployment of dedicated constituency sports officers, where 1 officer is assigned to manage 2 adjacent constituencies. We cannot effectively guide community intervention from an isolated office in Kingston. The core responsibility of these officers must be directly to manage, secure, and run active, weekly structured programming for our community netball courts, football fields, cricket pitches, and athletics track. Mr. Speaker, let us bring organized, disciplined athletic opportunities directly into the spaces where our youth congregate, providing a constructive, protective outlet for our young people in areas like Jericho, Ballards River, Pleasant Hill, Redford, Bullhead, and Anderson Town, during the critical summer months when vulnerability is at its highest. Mr. Speaker, I also propose the immediate implementation of a criteria-driven, apolitical national sports policy designed to provide structured pension and health insurance frameworks for our retired icons. We must also end the reactive ad hoc approach to honoring our greats. Let us honor our greats, our giants, while they're alive and well. Under this codified framework, I propose let us prop up permanent monuments for our history makers, such as Diane Hemmings, the first female English-speaking Caribbean gold medalist. So the speaker is absent. Renowned boxer Mike McCallum. Yes, the body snatcher. Footballers Walter Blackerboy Kirk. And of course, our footballing queen, Khadija Bonishaw. Oh, and I want to pause to congratulate her on being the MVP for the Super League in England and winning the Golden Boots. Big up Bonishaw. Yeah. And one of the world's best wicket keepers, Jeffrey Dujan, who have not yet been recognized.
Yes.
For my 3rd pillar, I propose the immediate reactivation and formal reintroduction of the National Sports Council. The National Sports Council has not been convened, has not met, has been entirely dormant since 2016. We have experienced an entire decade of complete policy inertia at the absolute highest level of sports governance. As stakeholders have correctly pointed out, you cannot give an exponential national plan without a comprehensive supervisory body. National plan without a comprehensive supervisory body. See, we ask for in narrow. I propose that we urgently reconvene this Apex Council, populated with an intentional blend of sporting expertise, representatives from the ministry, the leadership from Jamaica.
We're not gonna just act like we didn't hear him throw shots at Nara a while ago. Listen to this.
Supervisory body. See, we ask for in narrow. I propose that we urgently reconvene this Apex Council, populated with an intentional blend of sporting expertise, representatives from the ministry, the leadership from the Jamaica Olympic Association. We need a competent, collaborative policy-making body that meets regularly to supervise national deliverables, manage long-term strategic plans, and directly attracting international capital to our local associations. We must end the decade-long administrative standstill. I conclude, Mr. Speaker, on the most critical structural recommendation of all. I propose the immediate administrative separation of sports from its current arrangement. Data from a World Economic Forum analysis revealed that global sports economy is projected to reach 3.7 trillion by 2030 and skyrocket to 8.8 trillion in 2015, driven heavily by sectors like sports tourism, academies, and connected technology. You cannot effectively capture a share of this multi-trillion-dollar market when the portfolio is suffocated inside a mega ministry alongside gender, culture, and entertainment. we need a hyper-focused, singular ministerial mandate backed by an independent budget. We need a standalone ministry that is structurally equipped to build private-public sports academies, secure our international track certifications, defend our athletics labor force, negotiate global preseason training contracts, and aggressively position Jamaica as the undisputed sporting and sports tourism hub of the Caribbean. Because sport is no longer simply recreation, sport is an industry. Sport is exports. Sport is tourism. Sport is a foreign exchange. Sport is economic growth. And if we continue managing it with outdated thinking, other countries will continue to monetize Jamaican excellence better than Jamaica itself. Previous administrations led by the PNP always understood some fundamental. Previous administration led by the PNP always understood this fundamental, something fundamental. Sport is not merely recreation, sport is social mobility. Sport is nation building, and sport is economic transformation. The People's National Party invested heavily in sports because it recognized extraordinary power of athletes to change the trajectory from ordinary Jamaican lives, particularly for young people coming from struggling communities with limited opportunities. I stand here in this honored house today as a living proof of that vision. I know personally what investment in sport can do. I benefited from the sport. 2 minutes, please. I know personally that investment in sports can do.
Member, you're going to wrap up now. Wrap up now.
I benefited from sports scholarship opportunities provided by the late, great Michael Monday that allowed me to pursue my education while simultaneously developing my cricketing abilities. Those opportunities did not merely produce an athlete, they produced stability, discipline, exposure, and hope. That is transformational power of sports, Mr. Speaker. For many young Jamaicans, a football field, a cricket pitch, a netball court, or an athletic track is not simply a place to play. It is often the first doorway out of poverty, out of violence, out of hopelessness, and into purpose. That is why sports policy can be treated as ceremonial politics or seasonal public relations. It must be treated as a serious national development policy. Mr. Speaker, the time for excuses has expired. The time for structural illusions and broken promises is over. The time for structural transformation is now. The business of play is serious economic business, and it is time we lead in with power. Mr. Speaker, I thank you, but of most import, I thank the great people of Clarendon Northern.
Jamaica, I am very impressed. There's a few things there I did not know that was actually going on. Another stellar performance from the representative of the People's National Party in really highlighting the issues in the shadow ministry of which they are a part. Mighty God. Wow. One wave of lines, you know? One wave of lines. Let me know what y'all think in the comment section, man. Jesus. Yo, he smoked them, bro. He smoked them. We're gonna move on. We're gonna move on. Wave Irons absolutely smoked these guys, man. That's embarrassing, bro. Wow.
On my own.
Granted.
All right, so let me go back a little. There we go. Well, I have not listened to this, not even 1 second of this speech from Mr. Dr. Alfred Dawes. Ladies and gentlemen, hey, like this video, share this video. If you support the People's National Party and you see a member of the People's National Party on a thumbnail of mine, it is your duty and responsibility for those words to go out in the atmosphere, for the world to hear the representatives of the People's National Party and what they have to offer. So every video, like the video, share the video. It's not like these people are coming out here talking nonsense. Everything they're talking about is backed by statistics and facts and solid, intelligent ideas that they have crafted to make our lives better and to improve and capitalize on the value of our culture and the people. You understand? For the people to capitalize off it, for us to benefit directly. Let's listen to Mr. Alfred Dawes here, ladies and gentlemen, on health.
Permission to speak from a seat that's other than my own.
Granted.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, I rise. I want to firstly thank the Almighty, for it is by His grace alone that I stand in this place, carrying this portfolio. To my family, who surrendered dinners, evenings, and weekends to a life they never chose, I thank you. I salute my son Aaron, who reminds me ever so often how good our lives used to be before politics. My biological and adopted mothers here, the pillars I lean against when the weight of this work grows heavy. My siblings and their offspring, whose humbling words and comic relief arrive precisely when I need them the least and require it the most. My father and my political godfather, who have guided and ordered my steps. My friends, who gave good counsel when the road grew uncertain. To the constituents of Southeast St. Catherine, who placed their faith in me as their servant leader, I thank you for the privilege of carrying your voice, your words, and your hope into the noble house today. To the leader of the opposition, Mark Golden, who 2 years ago was scorned for appointing a shadow spokesperson on health and wellness with no seat in any house. As I told you then, I say again, thank you for trusting me. I will never let you down.
That's right.
To my colleagues, I extend the courtesy and respect this House demands and deserves. And to the Jamaican people from yard and abroad who shared their thoughts, their fears, their stories about healthcare with me, I speak today in your name. Every word is yours. Mr. Speaker, there are people watching this contribution to see whether I will reach into the protection of the parliamentary privilege to say what cannot be safely said outside these walls, where the threats of lawsuits abound. Some of them, I suspect, are very nervous. To those individuals, I speak plainly.
Damn.
There may come a day when the light is shone on those who occupy untenable but personally enriching positions. Positions sustained not by merit.
Oh, my God. Man, listen, Dr. Dawes is coming with all the smoke. I gotta play that back. He coming with all the smoke, ladies and gentlemen. All the smoke. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
It's abound. Some of
Yes,
them,
sir.
I suspect, are very nervous. To those individuals, I speak plainly. There may come a day when the light is shone on those who occupy untenable but personally enriching positions. Positions sustained not by merit, not by qualification, not by any stellar record of public service, but by ministerial protection and political convenience. But today is not that day. There may come a day when we stand here and call out those who wave the flag of free market capitalism, while they, without fair competition for contracts, gouge the pockets of the sick and the dying. But today
Is not that day.
There may come a day when the Hansard captures every detail that I know about the acts of corruption I have hinted at, and which the Auditor General and the Integrity Commission have corroborated. But today is not that day. Mr. Speaker, I did not come here today to beat. I came here to teach. And
And let the record be clear. The restraint I exercise today is not the restraint of fear. It is a deliberate choice because Jamaica does not need more spectacle. Jamaica needs more solution.
Man, listen, I should have started this show with a let's get this part of the life. This reaction should have been started with here in the corner is Dr. Dawes. In the next corner is the entire Jamaica Labour Party and their corrupt subordinates. Let's get ready to rumble! Mighty God! No man! No,
Mr. Speaker, I occupy, by the grace of God and the confidence of my constituents, a position that I believe is genuinely unique. I am, to the best of my knowledge, the only bariatric surgeon serving simultaneously as a sitting legislator anywhere on this earth. I raise that not as a trophy, but as a symbol of trust. For those unfamiliar, bariatric surgery is the surgical and medical treatment of obesity and the associated chronic diseases devastating Jamaican families from Negril Point to Moran Point. I do not study these diseases from behind a desk. I operate, I counsel, I watch them reverse when the right intervention reaches the patient at the right time, and I watch them kill when that intervention is denied. So I speak today not as a civilian reading from a script prepared by PR consultants and technocrats. I am speaking as a soldier who has fought in the trenches. From decades of patience, personal experience, and practical knowledge of the health sector at every level, from health centers to the operating theaters to boardrooms. Where others have studied the numbers, I have held the consequences of their poor policy decisions in my hands. Mr. Speaker, I must now acknowledge in his absence the Honorable Minister of Health and Wellness. I have spent considerable time reviewing his sectoral presentations from 2016 to this very year, every one of them. And having done so, I want to say something that may surprise this House. Honorable Minister, I salute you. By the measure of your own tactical objectives, the targets, programs, and deliverables you set before the House, year after year, you have achieved a passing grade. Clinics refurbished, units commissioned, posts created, programs launched, machines procured, documents tabled, task force announced, job fairs held. The minister should have taken a bow if he were here. Knock it gently, knock it. However, he has met his targets while missing his people. He has achieved his objectives while abandoning his purpose to deliver quality healthcare, rich in announcements, poor in outcomes. That is the record. The healthcare system, despite every tactical success over 10 years, remains in shambles. For example, Jamaica hemorrhages healthcare workers while the government applies a band-aid of job fairs and claims that as a tactical success. And that contradiction is why I did not come here to beat. I came here to teach so Jamaicans can spot gaslighting from a distance and work together to defeat it. We need some milk. Winning battles does not win the war. There's no more vivid illustration of this truth than the conflict unfolding between the United States, Israel, and Iran. Every single tactical objective has been achieved. The Iranian Navy neutralized, the Air Force grounded, air defense system dismantled, key installations destroyed, the Supreme Leader killed, the top leadership annihilated. By every tactical measure, they are winning. And yet, the strategic objective of regime change looks more unattainable today than before the first missile was fired. The people have rallied behind the regime, the Strait of Hormuz is closed, the NATO alliance cries for peace rather than joining the war. The regime endures. Tactical success does not equal strategic success. Winning battles does not win the war, and a government that makes mistakes, made up targets for real outcomes, that replaces strategy with spectacle, is a government that has lost its way, however many press releases it generates. While they celebrated the newly painted clinics that have no doctors or nurses, Patients cannot manage their chronic diseases because there remains no access to care. Achieving the tactical success of Jamaica moves over 7 years means nothing to those living the realities of sustained increases in obesity, diabetes, and hypertension that that program has failed to address. Briefly paying billions of dollars for outsourced private radiological studies until the money ran out means nothing to the family of the stroke victim who today must find cash upfront to pay a private entity and pray that an ambulance is available for their relative. The promise of a new hospital tower means nothing to the patient sleeping for days in a chair in the emergency room.
Jesus.
Today, Mr. Speaker, only one operating theatre is functional at the Bustamante Hospital for Children. Only 1 out of 6. Again, over 50 surgeries cancelled and counting. Again. Yet the tactical success of an emotional support dog to comfort the children who may never get their life-saving surgery is paraded as success. In creating tactical objectives, the input of the staff is consistently ignored. When operating theatre staff ask that their AC units be fixed, that they be given the tools and even the tricks to carry out their jobs properly, they were ignored.
Critical.
But court care, where we flew in doctors and nurses to scratch the surface of the surgical backlog, was presented to this house as a tremendous success. That surgical backlog, the strategic objective of curing cancers, treating hernias, fibroids, and restoring sight, is still here. And staff still cancel cases because there are no sterile drapes and theaters are closed because of malfunctioning AC units.
Mighty God.
Know your numbers. Again, it is not a legitimate screening program. If we were serious about screening, access would exist in every single health center. Access would exist in pharmacies, doctors' offices, and back-to-school fairs, not on road tours to generate content for social media. I wonder how many here in this house even know what an HbA1c is.
Yo, Dr. Alfred Dawes came with the gauntlet, bro. This man is Thanos snapping Christopher Tufton's entire career for the last 10 years. And he's not done yet. Where is the lie? Oh my God.
The most important number. I wonder how many here in this house even know what an HbA1c is. The single most important number to someone at risk of or who has diabetes. And if you do, where can you get that test done today? Access to screening cannot be through road tours.
My God.
6:30 a.m. doing my 50.
Yo, I'm gonna play that back. This man is asking some very critical questions, ladies and gentlemen. Wow.
It must be epic. I wonder how many here in this house even know what an HbA1c is. The single most important number to someone at risk of or who has diabetes. And if you do, where can you get that test done today? Access to screening cannot be through road tours.
Yes.
It must be everywhere.
Yes.
In a country where breast cancer is the second leading cancer in women, out of 25 hospitals and over 300 clinics, how many mammograms are currently functional?
Jesus.
If it is 2, it is not.
What? Mr. Alfred Dawes. Wait, if it's 2, it's not. What? Man, you gotta be, bro. This can't be real, bro. No.
Hospitals and over 300 clinics.
No.
How many mammograms are currently functional? If it is 2, it is not. 3 hospitals, 2 functioning mammograms. Breast cancer is the leading cause of cancer in women. where colon cancer is the third leading cancer. Why are fit tests and colonoscopies not available for screening for precancerous polyps rather than diagnosing advanced cancers with less likelihood of a cure? We salute the inclusion of prostate cancer screening coverage by the NHF, but where can a 40-year-old without an NHF card get his PSA tech today? The grand opening of the administrative block at Cornwall Regional Hospital was a tactical success. But did it mean anything to doctors and nurses who went on strike recently to protest the overcrowding in the hospital that forced them to step over patients on the floor to treat other patients? The strategic objective of having diabetics walking on two legs can be achieved in two ways. We could set up a program to pay for prosthetic legs after amputations, or we could screen diabetic patients with the ankle-brachial index and treat them medically, thus reducing amputations by 70%. We can guess which one this government chose. The one with the flare. Mr. Speaker, the strategic objectives we desire are clear. I want proper health care for my constituents, from Bridgeport to Bridgeview, Westmead to Garvamead, Cumberland and Cumberland Meadows to Westchester, Waterford to Passageford, Myrtle Way, Pigeon Shoot, Rattown, Edgewater, Independent City, Portsmouth to Back Road, and medical care with dignity for everyone, wherever they seek treatment across Jamaica. We on both sides of the aisle must accept that healthcare has reached crisis levels and work together to fix our public health system. Because when doctors triage patients in emergency rooms, they are not classified as comrades and laborites. They are classified as sick, well sick and dying, and they all get exposed to the overcrowding, the lack of beds and the long waits. Blood tests do not come back as orange or green. Blood tests come back as Jamaicans who need medical care with quality and dignity. We cannot hug them up at election time and not fight for better health care when we enter this house, leaving them to suffer. I think of my own high school teacher, a woman who gave decades of her life shaping the minds of Jamaica's children, diagnosed with cancer. She waits still for radiation treatment in the public system that they cannot accommodate. Those like her, waiting for cancer treatment that never comes.
Lady J, big up. That's an excellent comment right there, Lady J.
They are the statistics we see in the classic publications, but they are real people with real families losing hope for a cure. So let me define in plain language. What this government should be measuring itself against is not the current tactical objectives, but the universal strategic ones. Strategic success means not a single patient, not one, sleeps in a chair on the floor of a crowded emergency room.
True.
Strategic success means the nurse arriving for her shift finds the tools she needs, the co-worker she was promised, and the conditions that allow her to practice compassionately. Right. It means the patient who presents at a clinic can receive the test and the treatment they need without being told to find money and without being condemned to suffer if they cannot.
Yes.
It means my teacher gets her radiation treatment before her cancer progresses beyond what treatment can reach it. It means the premature baby born in Westmoreland tonight has access to an ICU space and a ventilator, not because her parents are wealthy, but because this country has decided that every life is worth fighting for.
Right, right.
This is what strategic success looks like. Not a ribbon cut, not a machine installed in a ceremony, not a document tabled, but a patient who lived because the system was there when they needed it. Mr. Speaker, the World Health Organization defines health as a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. Unfortunately, we have reduced healthcare in Jamaica to treating diseases because we are stuck in a loop where we are unable to properly address the wellness of the mind, body, and spirit. And until we transcend the debate surrounding sickness and focus on making Jamaicans physically, mentally, and spiritually well, we will continue to live in a broken society.
True.
Let us look first towards the physical. The health of a people is determined long before they present to a doctor. Obesity, our greatest challenge today, will not be solved by how Jamaica moves. Obesity will be solved by how Jamaica eats. Our food industry is killing us slowly, profitably, and with the implicit blessing of a government that cannot speak of healthy eating, while the Prime Minister cuts ribbons at fast food restaurant openings and calls it prosperity. That contradiction is not merely ironic, Mr. Speaker, it is deadly. The true culprit in Jamaica's non-communicable disease.
Damn. Yo, Dr. Dawes is cooking. Yo, listen, this is some very serious things he's talking about. But the way how he's that, this is some surgical stuff. Where is the lie? Jamaica, where's the lie? Where's the lie? How can you talk about you care about the health of people, but you're here cutting ribbons at fast food restaurants? And everybody knows fast food is the worst food. Period. Point blank. People love it. It is what it is, but it's the worst food for you. That's why majority of us here in Jamaica are obese. It's fast food. You know what's fast food too? Some of these restaurants that be using the same oil over and over again. Yeah, man. Fast food. Dangerous. He ain't lying. He's not lying, ladies and gentlemen.
This epidemic, that contradiction is not merely ironic, Mr. Speaker. It is deadly. The cuts ribbons at fast food restaurant openings and calls it prosperity. Profitably and with the implicit blessing of a government that cannot speak of healthy eating, while the Prime Minister cuts ribbons at fast food restaurant openings and calls it prosperity. That contradiction is not merely ironic, Mr. Speaker, it is deadly. The true culprit in Jamaica's non-communicable disease epidemic is glucose. The sustained elevation of blood glucose that produces insulin resistance, the engine that drives obesity, type 2 diabetes, kidney failure, amputations, and early deaths. And despite the war on cane sugar, funded by special interest groups, the single greatest source of that glucose in Jamaica is not the sweetened beverages they want us to solely focus on. It is the rice, the processed foods, the bread, the biscuits, the cereal, and the junk food. The heavy carbohydrate diet that forms the daily reality of hundreds of thousands of Jamaicans, not because they are irresponsible, but because it is the cheapest food available.
Facts. He gets
I am for a reduction in the consumption of sweetened beverages, but as long as the conversation is only around cane sugar and beverages, those who make Jamaicans sick with their junk foods will continue to get a free pass. A primarily protein, vegetable, low-calorie, low-carbohydrate diet is scientifically the most effective intervention for reversing chronic non-communicable diseases. This is what my patients are taught. This is what they fix when they reverse their chronic non-communicable diseases. This is what the Ministry of Health should be teaching in every clinic and school in this country. Unfortunately, the most popular protein source in Jamaica is chicken back, the lowest protein, highest fat content of all chicken parts. Not by choice, by poverty. Import duties of 240% on healthier chicken parts have taxed nutrition out of the reach of those who most need it. Eating healthy in Jamaica is a luxury for those who can least afford to get sick. This is not a health problem, it is a social justice epidemic. We welcome the tobacco regulations, but I am cautious that over-regulation will drive the industry underground, where there's a booming illicit trade in cigarettes that deprives the government of the sin taxes used to fund the NHF. We need stricter regulations on tobacco, yes. We need to reduce the consumption of sugary drinks, yes. But do not turn this into a ban on plastic straws to save turtles, while our drains are clogged with plastic bottles and our arteries clogged with fried chicken and fries. If we do not nourish our bodies or temples foods that heal and restore, rather than those that degrade and destroy, we will be always fixing the same diseases at great cost to the individual, productivity, and the state. Mr. Speaker, Yates warned, things fall apart if the center cannot hold. That center for every Jamaican standing in the middle of their own life, trying to keep it together, is mental health. The mind, Mr. Speaker, is not an afterthought. It is the engine room of the nation, and it is being left to stall. Mental health demands definitive action, not wellness benches installed for a photo op. definitive action to stop the suicides, taking our young people before they are. To help the families struggling with mental health patients who cannot remain admitted to hospital, but whom they cannot care for in their homes. Bellevue Hospital needs diagnostic services, roofs that don't leak, and at the most basic level of human dignity, enough food to feed its patients. Not more announcements of plans afoot, but patients and families suffer. And we Jamaicans do not want to see one more headline announcing a murder committed by a man of unsound mind who was failed by community psychiatry. Today, amid the onslaught of man-made and natural disasters, Jamaicans are feeling hopeless, helpless, and neglected by the state and their fellow Jamaicans. We need to make wellness checks, look for the signs of depression, and give a helping hand or even a listening ear. You will never know the weight of the burden you may have taken or the life you may have saved. And above all, if you're feeling down, hold on to better must come one day soon. Before I go on to the final
serious presentation,
let me take a step back from the personal level to the public health system, because we need to fully appreciate in the situation that exists today. Mr. Speaker, it takes cash to care, as my colleagues across the aisle know very well. In 2007, that cash was removed from our public health system by a hastily conceived, poorly implemented, free series of devastating decisions that ultimately required the prescription of bitter medicine by the then Prime Minister, who left office before he could administer it. It was not the government that paid the price of that bitter medicine. The price was paid by the people. The sacrifice was paid by the masses to pay down the JLP debts from 140% of GDP to where it is today. During the IMF imposed austerity, civil servants consented to frozen wages year after year, while the cost of living climbed around them. Their sacrifice, their suffering, and silence, the invisible fuel of national security. Users of the health sector were told by the IMF that spending could not increase because the priority was paying down the debt the JLP government had accumulated. And every single Jamaican absorbed that through their sacrifice, their suffering, and their solidarity with CCP and Peter P. As a result of the sacrifice of the people to create the fiscal space for greater social spend, health spending has grown from $60 billion to almost $200 billion. That growth is real, but the very people who sacrificed then are still sacrificing today. Because although the health budget has tripled, the suffering has worsened over the last 10 years. Babies more likely to die even when the budget has tripled. More pregnant mothers dying during childbirth even when the budget was tripled. More diabetes, more hypertension, more strokes, rising faster than the global average even when the budget has been tripled. Because this government does not believe in the people. The evidence is there in the allocation of resources. The evidence is in who benefits and who continues to be left behind. The evidence is in the gap between the announcement and the outcomes. They achieve tactical objectives, but never the strategic objectives. A gap that is measured not in dollars, but in human lives. The same pattern lives in the Hurricane Melissa aftermath. Jamaicans are living in shelters while the government sits on $1.4 billion of donated aid. $1.4 billion, $26 million spent out of $1.4 billion. Money that Jamaicans sacrifice to send to their brothers and sisters sleeping on the tarpaulins while this government sits on their donations. This is not incompetence. This is not bureaucracy. This is a pattern. A pattern of an uncaring government that spends freely but never on the needy. Mr. Speaker, you cannot tell a man to eat right and exercise and not drink rum and boom when he has lost everything and the government is sitting on the cash meant to help his family. You cannot discuss period poverty with a woman in a shelter. First, you must fix that poverty, period. Hurricane Melissa.
Yo, you see that smug look on this girl face? This is why I have no respect for them. None. Everything that and for the people that watch this replay, you'll see what I'm talking about. You see this look on this girl face, Juliet Cuthbert, when the man, and I'm gonna play it again, since as you know, it's just, what is he talking about? Listen to him again.
A pattern of an uncaring government that spends freely but never on the needy. Mr. Speaker, you cannot tell a man to eat right and exercise and not drink rum and boom when he has lost everything and the government is sitting on the cash meant to help his family. You cannot discuss period poverty with a woman in a shelter. First, you must fix that poverty, period.
Where's the lie? You have to fix the poverty. And look at her smug look on her face after that, shaking her head. Like the man just didn't make the most excellent of common sense. Simple. Fix the poverty, period. It's a great play of words. It's very intelligent. And it gets the message across. Listen, look at her. You see, this is the expression of the Jamaica Labour Party. They don't care. They don't.
Hurricane Melissa's aftermath is not just a housing crisis. It is a moral failure on the part of the government. Partaking in photo ops with suffering hurricane victims, knowing full well they are sitting on money donated in the name of humanity and refuse to spend it on them. We cannot speak of mental health achievements when half the country is wondering if their lives will ever be the same again and counting down the days the next hurricane season and sleeping on the tarpaulins. It is unconscionable, and no amount of spin doctoring by the squealers on this animal farm can save you from the conclusions that Jamaicans have already drawn about how you really feel about them. The world is watching how the government is treating those most in need of restoring their lives. And pardon my violation of the standing orders, Mr. Speaker, it not look good. Mr. Speaker, health is not the exclusive domain of the Ministry of Health. When a grandmother cannot afford a taxi fare to keep her clinic appointment to keep her high blood pressure under control, that too, Mr. Speaker, is a health crisis, and the minister responsible for transport must answer. When a pensioner must choose between her electricity bill and her prescription, that too is a health crisis, and the minister responsible for energy must answer. When a cataract patient joins over 4,500 patients who cannot get sight-saving surgery from the Cubans because their government chose visas over vision, that too is a health crisis. And the minister...
Bruh, man, listen. They're not gonna like this dude. I see why this man's life was threatened by poison. I see why. That's why they didn't want him in the House of Parliament. But God said, no, you cannot. He got to be there. He got to be there, ladies and gentlemen.
A health crisis, and the minister responsible for transport must answer. When a pensioner must choose between her electricity bill and her prescription, that too is a health crisis, and the minister responsible for energy must answer.
True.
When a cataract patient joins over 4,500 patients who cannot get sight-saving surgery from the Cubans because their government chose visas over vision, that too is a health crisis, and the minister of foreign affairs must answer. And when the mother who falls into the gap, not poor enough for part, but can't afford to send her child to school, and the child is malnourished and unable to learn, that too is a health crisis, and the Minister of Labour and Social Security must answer. When a family cannot afford vegetables and subsist on chicken back and rice and peas, that too is a health crisis, and the Minister of Agriculture must answer. And when the rats and roaches run amok in uncollected garbage piling up in our communities, that too is a health crisis, and the Minister of Local Government must answer. And when the most vulnerable users of our public health hospitals must beg on social media to find money for their treatment, when only the connected few enjoy promised prosperity, that too is a health crisis, and the Minister of Finance must answer. We do not...
Mr. Alfred Dawes, he got a hit list in. Like everybody's getting the smoke and he's putting it into perspective. whose responsibility these contributions to health crisis is. Damn, man, I gotta play that back. I'm sorry, y'all. I gotta play that back. Ain't no way, bro. Ain't no way.
And the child is malnourished and unable to learn. That too is a health crisis. Life-saving surgery from the Cubans because their government chose visas over vision.
Gotta play it back.
That too is a health crisis. And the Minister of Foreign Affairs must answer. And when a mother who falls into the gap, not poor enough for path, but can't afford to send her child to school, and the child is malnourished and unable to learn, that too is a health crisis, and the Minister of Labour and Social Security must answer. When a family cannot afford vegetables and subsist on chicken back and rice and peas, that too is a health crisis. The Minister of Agriculture must answer. And when the rats and roaches run amok in uncollected garbage piling up in our communities, that too is a health crisis, and the Minister of Local Government must answer. And when the most vulnerable users of our public health hospitals must beg on social media to find money for their treatment, when only the connected few enjoy the promised prosperity, that too is a health crisis, and the Minister of Finance must answer. We do not have a healthcare system that caters to the masses. We do not have a government that caters to the masses. No fiscal, agricultural, or even donation policies address the socio-economic determinants of health. And all of it together, every gap, every failure, every unanswered cry is a national health crisis. One that this government must admit to and stop covering up with promises and prophecies. I left out water. I thought, we're good. We're good. Mr. Speaker, on Sunday, I saw a woman gunned down in cold blood by one who had sworn to serve and protect her. Then her body was pulled from the car by the feet like a carcass and thrown in the back of a van. Whereas due process must be allowed and justice must take its course, we all know what we saw. What we saw was one woman losing her life and several men losing their humanity. Humanity is the quality of compassion, empathy, and moral care that we extend to one another. It is putting the needs of others before ourselves, understanding that true happiness is not found in accumulation, but in contribution. True fulfillment is not a product of receiving, but of giving. That we may live on an island, but no man is an island. But I feel we are losing our humanity because we have ignored the existence of spiritual component of health. We have compared politics so that exploitation that are God desire. Our partiality by reducing human lives to lesser beings based on their address, the shade, and the size of their bank accounts. And in doing so, we are destroying our own spiritual health. Too many Jamaicans are physically fit, mentally stable, but spiritually dead inside because they chose selfishness over service, prosperity over philanthropy, and politics over the people. Every day that we turn a blind eye to the suffering of our brothers and sisters, a little piece of what it means to be human dies in us. To save our spiritual health, we must subordinate our self-interest to a greater purpose. And that greater purpose is to give hope to the poor, be a voice for the voiceless, and work together to destroy the system that sees poor people sleeping on hospital floors while billions of dollars are misallocated or missing. A system where people are still suffering from Hurricane Melissa while humanitarian aid sits idly. I believe that we still have empathy and compassion that defines us as Jamaicans. And I believe that we still have the blood of the revolutionaries flowing in our veins. And that is why I still believe and compassion that defines us as Jamaicans. And I believe that we still have the blood of the revolutionaries flowing in our veins. And that is why I still believe that there is hope for a better healthcare system in Jamaica. Because once we have awakened from our slumber, we will fight together to dismantle this current system and build a better one. We will demand together that proper health care be treated as a human right enshrined in our Constitution, regardless of their job or their address, a human right for every single Jamaican. And when enough of us have decided that enough is enough, and we will fight not for prosperity for the few, but provision for the many, we can in unison say loudly across Jamaica land we love. To the patients sleeping in the emergency rooms tonight, don't fret too much because better will come. To the family praying for an ICU space, hold the faith because better soon come. And to those holding on to the last string of hope for a better life, hold on just a little longer because better must come. Mr. Speaker, I thank you.
I am redeemed. Man, bro, this is one for the record books. This is one for the record books. We have to really listen to this speech. You understand what I'm saying? Like, trust me, this is serious, bro. This man poured out every emotion of the regular man into this speech. He gets it, Jamaica. He gets it. He gets it. This is the person that you want to be your Minister of Health. And we just have one little thing to do, is to get rid of the government that is in power right now. Yes, man. Yes, man. September 3rd, we had the opportunity. But there's going to be another opportunity by the grace of God, sooner than later. You understand? Because we cannot continue the way we are right now. The people lives are just being removed because of everything you just mentioned. All right? All of the deficiencies, all of the failures. I'm talking about how much money they have spent. Ridiculous. Just heartless and evil. Let me know what you think in the comment section. All right, my people. So let me get to this. Mark Golden. You are Mark GSA also. You are Mark Golden and say so.
May aspire to own their own home, but for Jamaicans who 50th anniversary this year.
Mr. Speaker, I ask this honorable House to give due consideration and support to this very important bill. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
All right, so I haven't listened to this, but this has to do with NHT funds. So let us hear what Mark Golden has to say, and I'll be reacting to it in real time in this particular video. So let's get the context of what's going on. In the meantime, please remember to like and share the video. Subscribe, click the notification bell, and click all so you can get all notifications. Pay attention to Nightbot when the premiere is going on, so you can see all the links, the groups, the channels, the other channels, you know, the WhatsApp channels, all of that good stuff. Yeah, and donate, you know, so super chat available on BOLO V&R 2.0, and the donation link is pinned as well. Let's go.
Yes, sir. I meant to push it down. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the National Housing Trust was established in the mid-1970s. 1976 to be specific, and it is celebrating its 50th anniversary this year. It was one of the significant achievements of the government of that era in raising capital to transform the housing opportunities for Jamaicans who were suffering from very inadequate, dehumanizing shelter conditions. That situation may have changed somewhat in the sense that the work of the National Housing Trust has delivered hundreds of thousands of housing solutions over the 50 years of its existence. But Jamaica still suffers from a chronic shortage of affordable housing. Young people in particular may aspire to own their own home, but find it very difficult to do so. The accessibility and affordability of what is being developed by developers in the market is beyond their means. And the Housing Trust ought to be purposed and empowered to meet that critical need. By way of background, it is true that in 2013, when Jamaica had a debt to GDP ratio of 147% and was in an IMF program, or seeking to get into an IMF program, in circumstances where the previous program had been crashed by the previous government, and our name was mud with the international financial community, we had to run a primary surplus of 7.5% of GDP, meaning that we had to run a surplus of revenue over non-debt expenditure of 7.5% of GDP. And the way in which that could be done at the time, based on analysis of an international accounting firm which advised the cabinet, was that for 4 years, $11.4 billion per annum could be taken from the NHT to get Jamaica out of that crisis.
Jamaica, I want to take this opportunity to share the documentation that supports exactly what Mark Golden is talking about right now. The IMF report from the IMF website. Let me share this with you right now. This is a teachable moment for every single labourite out there where have any interest in knowing the facts and the truth. If you want to stay blind, oh, that's fine. But listen, look at your screen right now. International Monetary Fund, that's the IMF, lending case study of Jamaica. What does this say? Jamaica and the IMF, the power of partnership and ownership. And I'm going to make it read all the way down to the point where Mr. Mark Golden is talking about. Listen to this, ladies and gentlemen. If it may please you. Un momento. Something is wrong. What happened to more tools? Why is it not giving me the opportunity to read it? Anyway, oh, it's already been read out loud. Okay, that's right.
Challenges. The public, Jamaica and the IMF, the power of partnership and ownership. May 2019. After gaining independence in 1962, Jamaica enjoyed strong economic growth and achieved middle-income status quickly. 3 decades later, income started to plateau, including following a massive financial crisis in the 1990s and a further setback after the 2008 global financial crisis. Challenges have ranged from policy missteps that led to high public debt to vulnerability to natural disasters, emigration and brain drain, and high crime. By 2013, Jamaica's public debt had reached a historic high of about 147% of GDP, making it one of the most indebted countries in the world. Program ownership and design. After a debt exchange in 2010 and yet another IMF-supported program that went off track, in 2011, the country was on the verge of an economic meltdown with no access to international capital markets. Jamaica once again turned to the IMF in spring 2013 for financial support. With its preceding weak track record of reform, significant budget financing from international and development partners was less forthcoming. Jamaica needed a second debt exchange and a primary surplus of 7.5% of GDP to help stabilize the economy and address long-standing structural challenges.
Bingo. There it is, ladies and gentlemen. But I'm going to let it finish.
The public said enough is enough. The Economic Program Oversight Committee was formed so that stakeholders from the private sector, unions, government, academia, and the media could come together to hold the government accountable for its reform commitments and fiscal discipline under the reform program. With that, as described by Finance Minister Nigel Clark, what began as an IMF program became Jamaica's program with IMF support. I'm
not going to read out all the article, but there is the evidence, ladies and gentlemen. Let's continue.
And that was done. At the time, an NGO which had an affiliation with the opposition took the matter to court. The opposition at the time was strongly against the use of the funds of the NHT to help Jamaica solve its fiscal crisis. The court ruled that the legislation was lawful and it was implemented for those 4 years. When the government changed in 2016, the government that had formally opposed this legislation while in opposition proceeded to endorse the arrangement, passing legislation not once, not twice, but now 3 times to extend the period of extracting these resources from the NHT for 4 years at a time. In the election campaign of 2025, the People's National Party indicated that we were against any further extension of this arrangement. Jamaica's fiscal situation had fundamentally changed compared to where it was in 2013. Whereas the debt to GDP ratio back then was in the 140% range, it had been reduced due to the success of the fiscal responsibility framework to the 60% range. And there was no justification for diverting the resources of National Housing Trust from its statutory purpose of providing shelter, affordable shelter for Jamaicans who need it. General budgetary needs. If they were seeking our support for this, they would have come and dialogue with us and explained why they saw the necessity to extend this for another 5 years. There has been no such consultation or discussion. We are 7 that we're now in, we need to have this extended for a year. We would have probably said we will support that. Indeed, if they had said we are going to need it for 2 years because it's going to take 2 years to deal with the recovery from the hurricane, we would have probably told them, well, let's do it 1 year at a time and see how it plays out. Because things have changed. For example, in the current fiscal year, the increased price of oil and gas has meant that the government is enjoying a windfall on the SCT on fuel, which was not in the budget. We don't know how much that windfall is yet, but there's no doubt that it's real. So, had we had those kind of discussions, we could have probably agreed some way of addressing this matter. But in keeping with the way that the government treats this opposition, and the lack of consultation on matters that they know are of fundamental importance to us, they have tabled this bill, extending this arrangement for 5 more years. In the meantime, the NHT is outsourcing much of its lending to the private sector now. It has to be paying a subsidy to the private sector for the interest rate on those mortgages, which is a cost to the NHT. And the shelter crisis of Jamaicans continues in a very real sense and is not being met by the housing policy of this government. Mr. Speaker, that is the context in which this bill is being debated today. We will not support this bill. This bill could have achieved our support had we had consultations and worked out what we consider a reasonable arrangement given the hurricane that passed. But to bring a bill here and to say that you're going to take another $57.5 billion out of the National Housing Trust over the next 5 years is unacceptable to us. We do not agree with it, and in the 50th anniversary of the National Housing Trust, implemented by the late great Prime Minister of Jamaica, Michael Joshua Manley, we will not support this bill. Mr. Speaker, that is our position. Thank you.
All right. So, very, very clear. Let me see.
Mr. Speaker, I've had the privilege.
I don't want to hear from them.
Member Portland Eastern.
Yeah, let me hear what I'm going to say.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I would have heard from the persons before me, the members. I only rise because of my concern that the memorandum of objects and reasons, of objects and reasons is not, it certainly isn't reflecting what I'm hearing from the Prime Minister. It is not reflecting what I heard from the Finance Minister, and it certainly is not reflecting from the Minister of Water and Environment, respectfully. So one of the key things is that I'm pointing to the memorandum of objects and reasons, and it says that the Section 3 of the Act provided that this would continue until the 31st of March 2026 and then expire. So there was an expectation that the pull down, there would have been an expiration date. The discontinuation of these annual contributions will result in a significant fall off in government revenue. It goes on to say that the government's economic program relies on these transfers to fund some expenditures in the national budget, without which expenditure would require reduction or a tax package to be able to cover the shortfall. Now, Mr. Speaker, I will say this. I am sure that the Prime Minister will agree. The danger is the thought of this being an indefinite exercise. Now, I'm saying this in the context that the ordinary Jamaican, his or her expectation is to own a piece of the rock, a piece of Jamaica. Cannot put it any simpler. There is an aspect of this 11.4 billion that the ordinary man will never appreciate or come to terms with. And that is what this conversation is about.
Mr. Ray, the car that I drive is in Dalton, naming on the paper.
All right, so now I know exactly. So they're all talking about it. So now I know exactly what I have to do. All right, let me take it here. We have to go here, ladies and gentlemen, because you see, man, this guy Andrew is something else. This dude is something else. I'm telling you, he's something else, bro. He's something else. Let me see if I can find this clip. I have it. I know I have it. What is where I have it? Downloads. Delete those. Let me see. Downloads. I'm gonna show you the hypocrisy of Androids. Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. Yeah, it's unbelievable. Cannot believe that this is the same guy. Cannot believe that this is the same dude, bro. Extra large icons, perfect. So we can get to see the thing then better. That's not it. There's a clip that I had got. I don't know if I deleted it. If I do, it's quite unfortunate if I did. But I'm gonna try and find it. Un momento, por favor. In the meantime, I'm going to play with this someone else.
Was expiring next week. What we are going to do?
There are persons who have a desire, who when qualified, only wants to get the pull down, their share. Not that the government will provide the housing, but the ability to be able to purchase the land and the ability to build that house. Now, there are persons who are not getting the services from NHD. for many other reasons. The outsourcing, the mortgage is not coming from NHT, the requirements, the clogs, the fetters that would make it impossible for them to be able to own a home currently. Now, one has to look at the aspect that the necessity has not been explained. For instance, we're hearing that because of Melissa, this is now a requirement. Now, I will say this, it's not reflected in the memorandum of objects and reasons. Not one line or sentence that Melissa is one of the reasons.
Freedom, big up.
No, because what I'm saying is there must be justification for what is an indefinite extension for, and I would not want to be the bearer of bad news. I am not a prophet, but to say, if we experience a hurricane this year, and next year, and the year after, then what is being said from these explanations is that there will always be a need for pull down. That is why when the opposition leader stood today and said, perhaps if the extension were for a year, possibly the conversation could take place. Because we have to, we definitely, respectfully, and I only ask that the contribution is for the people. That's all I'm saying. The contribution that I'm making is for consideration for the ordinary Jamaican to come to terms with the fact that when they hear that the object and purpose of the NHT is so the common man can own a home. And when one puts it highfalutin or at a place where the common man cannot appreciate, then we have to have the conversation. And so, if I had to use the Prime Minister's words, he said the government is not utilizing resources from the NHT for purposes that are not of national importance. But this today, the Finance Minister says, is to cover expenses. Doesn't say what the national importance is. Hold on, in a language that the common man can understand. And listen, I am quoting. Hear me. It's fine. You know, Mr. Speaker, there is a particular standing orders that you can use if I'm being interrupted or feel as if I'm being bullied. But I would never dare do that. But to say that if I will be allowed to speak for persons who cannot speak in this house, please permit me to do so. That is all I'm asking.
Simple.
There has to be some form of specific language that we can point to so that the ordinary man can appreciate what we are talking about national importance. In 1993, don't know how old I was at that time, but the then Prime Minister Patterson had pulled down on the NHT for educational purposes. It was quite specific, and I'm sure everybody can agree where that is concerned. When one looks at the history and why the pull down took place in 2013, the country was at an impasse. Strict regulation under the IMF. If I'm incorrect, I stand corrected. I am here to learn. Now, when that time has expired, we have seen where the pull down took place up until 2026. I am simply saying, when an additional 5 years is tacked on to it, it starts to appear that this is something that is going to be indefinite. Yes? Oh, where is the energy? Where is the energy minister? Where you need him? One would think we'd never lose light. Yes, there it goes. All right. But here, where is the member from West Portland? We just lost light. But anyway, respectfully, Mr. Speaker, all I'm saying is where one looks at the memorandum of objects and reason, legally, the reasons for the pull down or the justification will not be consensus ad idem with what is being asked. Now, having said that, perhaps, and I will only say, Mr. Speaker, perhaps the Finance Minister, the Prime Minister, the government, the Cabinet, can consider a revisiting in terms of the pull down to be of a shorter term. Perhaps there is always room for negotiation, if not some form of explanation so the people can understand. And it is for those reasons why at this juncture, I am painstakingly saying, because it was never created for this type of expenditure, in the context that when the Prime Minister says we would have to pull from somewhere. One can recall the Norman Manley International Airport future earnings. Same for the Sangsters Airport. And if I'm to understand what I'm hearing or what the common man hears is, no way no left who we take money from. And so NHT, we're going to have to take from NHT. Yeah, that is actually what the message that is being said. And so for those reasons, Mr. Speaker, and only those reasons, the absence of a proper reason linking Melissa, in the absence of the objects and reasons stating clearly what is the national importance of holding down for an additional 5 years, I cannot respectfully support.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well done.
Member from St. James West Central.
Well done.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to support the bill for plain and simple reason. Plain and simple reason. It makes no sense to have monies in the rest of government and central government is broke. Makes no sense. So the member from Portland asked about a reason. The memorandum actually gives the reason. So fiscal consolidation is a public finance strategy, and it is used to address broader financial goals. And if the choice is between raising taxes and putting a greater burden on the backs of Jamaicans at this time, or using monies in the rest of government to ensure that government can finance what needs to be financed, then I think the bill is worth supporting. It is important to remember that not so long ago, a lawsuit was brought to examine the nature of the trust because of the use of the word trust. And that judgment brought a lot of clarity. Choice is not always between good and bad, better and worse, or good and better. So for me, at this time, with everything that is happening in the nation, if the rest of government has money that can be used responsibly and well for fiscal consolidation, as opposed to heaping tax burden on the backs of Jamaicans when they're trying to recover, get back on their feet, I believe this is a better choice and the bill should be supported.
I disagree with Marlon Malou. I'm sorry. You got it all wrong, man. 100% wrong. I guess you're trying to make up back for not supporting the bill, the other bill. Yeah, total nonsense. Total nonsense. All right. The actual antecedents of them doing this in taking away the money from all the other places that they mentioned, the airport, all those future funds. They don't have nowhere else to take money from. This is total mismanagement of the economy, and they are robbing the citizens of Jamaica. I need to find that video.
Member from Eastern Westmoreland.
You're not gonna love it. You're not gonna love it. You're not gonna love it. You're not gonna. Mr. Speaker, thank you very much. I sat, Mr. Speaker, I wasn't necessarily minded to say anything. However, when I listened to the blatant hypocrisy that was coming from that side, it compelled me to my feet to make a contribution to this. Now, if we're listening to this conversation, the first thing that we're hearing is that if we did not do this, we would have to increase taxes. But several times, the members on this side, including the Prime Minister himself, has gone out and said that we increased taxes on the backs of the people in our previous administration. And he himself said that this was a raid on the NH. And he's
Thank God for this man. That's exactly the argument that I'm looking for. Yes. Shout out to this man right here, Dr. Nathan Campbell.
JAMAICA.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. Oh my goodness. Thank you, my brother. Thank you, my brother. So let us continue on the reaction. Ladies and gentlemen, I was looking for the video. of Andrew Holness' position on the money taken from the NHT. He likened it to the Jamaican government robbing the people of Jamaica like a thief in the night. Yes, he said that to the point where they carried them to court. But listen to Dr. Nathan Kang put it into perspective, ladies and gentlemen. Listen to this.
Member from Eastern Westmoreland.
You're not gonna love it. You're not gonna love it. I sat, Mr. Speaker, and I wasn't necessarily minded to say anything. However, when I listened to the blatant hypocrisy that was coming from that side, it compelled me to my feet to make a contribution to this. Now, if we're listening to this conversation, the first thing that we're hearing is that if we did not do this, we would have to increase taxes. But several times, the members on this side, including the Prime Minister himself, has gone out and said that we increased taxes on the backs of the people in our previous administration. And he himself said that this was a raid on the NHT.
Facts.
And he said that these funds should be ring-fenced. He said that in the House, and he said that on national programs. No. The point is being made that, yes, there is a disaster. No. There was a natural disaster in 2025, Hurricane Melissa. But there was a man-made disaster in the JLP administration between 2007 to 2011. Because when there was the international crisis, the depression, their Minister of Finance said that it would benefit Jamaica. That's what he said. They went on to then abandon the IMF agreement. And it is because of those reasons that we were placed in a position that we had to draw down on the funds from the NHT. To now come and make the very point that because you have a disaster, you now can draw down on it when you took the opposite position a few years ago. It cannot just be allowed to pass as if it is nothing. The member from North East St. Ann is making the point that it is because of fiscal responsibility and the position that we are in. The debt to GDP of Jamaica at that time was over 140%. The debt to GDP now is less than 100%. How is it that they complained at that time when the debt to GDP was over 140 to say that this was irresponsible and should not be done? But now when the debt to GDP is down, way less than 100, all of a sudden it is now the fiscal responsibility to do. That level of hypocrisy cannot be allowed to stand. The next point, Mr. Speaker, that is being made, that, this is because of Melissa. This has been going on for 10 long years. Melissa was 2025. This has been going on from 2016. So the government cannot be allowed to just come to the parliament and to totally ignore the total tribal statements that they made before, unpatriotic statements when they placed the country in a precarious position and we had to beg to restore Jamaica's reputation. They can't come now to ignore that and suggest that all of a sudden what they are doing is the responsibility. They are being hypocritical. No, Mr. Speaker, I heard hypocritical. No, Mr. Speaker, I heard a few things being said here today. The Prime Minister said that they're not ignoring the law. Who was ignoring the law back then when he was carried out? I beg your kind pardon. I beg your kind pardon. I beg your kind pardon. Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker. No. The Prime Minister said that the leader of opposition is willing to put the country at risk because of ego. What was the leader of opposition in 2013 doing when he was opposing here, when he was supporting court action against it, when he was doing everything to ensure that we could not withdraw the funds from NHC, and at that time the debt to PNP was much worse than what it is now. Was it ego that he was putting the country at risk for them? Was he putting the country at risk for ego?
He was definitely putting the country at risk for ego and being blatantly hypocritical because it's his government when he was a senior member under the JLP that put Jamaica in the precarious position of not having any access to international capital market. IMF nobody was looking at us. Talk up the things them Dr. Dayton Campbell.
At that time, that level of hypocrisy PM is palpable. Palpable. No. I learned that in medical school in 2003, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Now, the Prime Minister went on to say that we do not have a demand problem. Only for people want houses. As a matter of fact, 150,000. I am paraphrasing for the member there that is not familiar with the English language. I am not yielding for that. The essence of the Prime Minister's point is that we do not have a demand problem. There is no point of order.
Member,
there is no point of order.
Member,
there is no point of order.
Member, you cannot determine that. It's not for you to determine. It's not for you to determine. Allow me to hear. It's not for you to determine.
What is it?
Member, your point of order. You're telling me that you're taking a point of order and a point of order. No. Continue with the presentation.
Mr. Speaker, the member is not listening to his leader because the Prime Minister made the point in trying to position the argument in a basic economic principle of demand and supply. He said that Jamaica does not have a demand problem. There is a need for 150,000 houses. Jamaica has a supply problem. That is what he said. So that member should listen to the Prime Minister when he's speaking.
Shots fired.
No. I am saying, if there is a supply problem where we are short 150,000 houses, who could help to increase that supply to the market? Who? If we make an intelligent guess, could the National Housing Trust actually play a role in putting those, in increasing those supply to the market? Absolutely yes is the answer. Now, the Prime Minister went on to say, Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister went on to say that there are issues, and the member from North East Central said it, there are issues that would cause them not to be able to build the houses. One, land issues. That is why, in the last election campaign, we said that we would decrease the period of time for you to own government land from 60 years to 25 years so that we will put land in possession of the people so that they could build on their own lands. Because it's not all of the construction has to come from government. People can build on their own lands if they're given those lands. Right? And the members opposite confuse the public in saying, here goes the PNP, they want to take away your land. Not telling the public that the current time for private land is actually 12 years. And that the period being proposed by the opposition was twice the period for the private land, and it was in relation to government-owned land. Mischief. Right? And then come to pretend as if they are brand new. They come now, Mr. Speaker, to pretend as if they are brand new. And I am not finished, you know, Mr. Speaker. Because the Prime Minister went on to say, even if we had all the money, we still couldn't build the houses because we don't have the contractors. But a few weeks ago, Mr. Speaker, I was told here that NARA would fix all of these problems. So I want to know now, how is it that even with all of the money, we can't rebuild the houses for the people down in Eastern Westmoreland? How is it that we still cannot build the houses for the people in Eastern Westmoreland? No. You had your chance. You had your chance. No, you had your chance. I listened to you. You had your chance. I listened to you. No, Mr. Speaker.
Beat him, Dr. Dayton Campbell. Beat him. You think about him a smile. Yo, he must feel every shot we fire in this address. From that, you know, long way from Dr. Dayton Campbell for present himself to the party. This is the Dr. Dayton Campbell I know. Yes, Gensec. One Gensec.
There are some persons who contribute to the National Housing Trust. And when they make their contribution, Mr. Speaker, and they apply, they tell them that they do not qualify. Well, Mr. Speaker, in Jamaica, especially in rural Jamaica when we're growing up, and if you're growing up in poverty, we have a thing named partner. And the basic rule of partner, comrade, forgive me. Remember me, the basic rule, no, that would be a misnomer. Remember me, the member from Southwest Satan, the basic rule of partner is that if you throw a hand, you must get a draw. If you throw a hand, you must get a draw. It's a basic rule of the partner system. Therefore, seeing that the contribution to the NHT is mandatory, it is mandatory. Persons who are employed are not asked to make the contribution. It is mandatory. It is taken out of their salaries automatically.
Yes.
And if they
June.
make that mandatory contribution, every single contributor to the NHT should stand to get a benefit from the NHT.
That is it, mandatory.
So, Mr. Speaker, when you have constituencies like Western Westmoreland, Central Westmoreland, Eastern and Western Hanover, South St. James, Northeast St. Elizabeth, even Southwest St. Elizabeth, because some of the members here can't talk for their constituency, you know. They can't speak up. Northwest St. Elizabeth and other places, where the devastation is so severe. You have members there that are making contributions and don't stand to get a benefit. I work in hospital. As a doctor, I stand to get a benefit from NHT. And when the porter goes to apply, he's told that he's not qualified. So the doctor who earns more and is in a better position qualifies. But the porter who is at the lower end is the one that doesn't qualify to get a benefit. Meaning that we would be using the poorer people to subsidize the richer people
it's unjust.
In the system. That cannot continue to operate in that way.
It is unjust. Thank you for pointing that out, Jensen. It is unjust. And the Jamaican people, hey, Jamaican people, wise up and rise up, no man. Mighty God, how much more abuse are you willing to take before you stand up for yourself? You know, system bring you back in a slavery. I want to know. And you can't stay there. Where is the nanny and the maroons? Where is the part bogle? Where is there? What is want to know? My God.
And that is a fact. Any member here that doesn't know that that is happening is not on the ground in their constituency. No. These members of my constituency, whose houses have been destroyed, you know what we were told, Mr. Speaker? You know what we were told? We were told that over 1,000 residents from Eastern Westmoreland still cannot get electricity. And we were told that 40% of that, over 400 people, are not in a position to receive it because their homes have been totally destroyed. I am saying, if there is a surplus of funds within the National Housing Trust, and there is a deficit of housing in the country, if you want to do other things, let me say I'm not commenting on that right now, others will, but I'm commenting on the housing part of it. How is it that there is a surplus of funds within an agency that is supposed to be dealing with housing? We have our brothers and sisters suffering out there with tarpaulin over their houses. People in the tourism sector who get 6 feet of wood, 3 bag of nail, and don't get nothing else. How is it that we are comfortable with those persons in that precarious position? And we have a surplus that we decide that we are going to use it for budgetary support. I am not spreading any misinformation. I am speaking of a presentation that I saw, and Minister, please. Minister, please. Please, Minister, please. Minister, please. The issue, Mr. Speaker, I just want you to stop for a second. And I want you to think that these persons, because we're saying this is because of Melissa, you know, and that has been my fundamental problem here, you know, with the NARA legislation and with this. There's 15 minutes remaining on the clock, right? It has been my fundamental problem. That problem here, you know, with the NARA legislation and with this. There's 15 minutes remaining on the clock, right? It has been my fundamental problem that when a Category 5 hurricane makes landfall in a constituency, and that constituency, the entire constituency suffers damage from a Category 5. It did not break in Eastern Westmoreland. The entire constituency of Eastern Westmoreland suffered from a Category 5 hurricane. That is the reason why everybody else is celebrating that they have electricity fully restored, but I have 400 people who don't even qualify to get it restored because there's no building to put it on.
Wow.
That is the reason.
Wow.
When I come here, I am talking on behalf. What do you mean wrap up when I have 14 minutes to go? There's the time. No, you're standing order, Mr. Speaker. Each member has 30 minutes to contribute. Each member has 30 minutes. There's the time. You can't be telling me to wrap up when I have 14 minutes on the clock.
Out of order.
What is really going on? What is really going on?
Damn out of order. Damn out of... Fixing business, Dr. Dayton Campbell. Stink.
No. I am not here on my own behalf, you know, sir. I am here because of the privilege afforded to me by the people of Eastern Westmoreland. And had it been for you and other members there, I wouldn't be here. So when I come here, I'm not here to please you because you came there to campaign so that I wouldn't reach here. So I'm not here because of you. I am here despite of you. Right? So I am going to speak on behalf of my people who sent me here. Right? No. This is my third term in here and it's your turn. Don't fly past your nest. Don't fly past your nest. It's your third term in here. Right? Mr. Speaker, the people who have suffered from the damage of the hurricane that are still living on a tarpaulin, and I invite the members opposite to take a drive through the constituency of Eastern Westmoreland. Two times the papers been here. 2 times. Right? Now, if you take a drive through the constituency of Eastern Westmoreland, approximately 40% of the houses still have tarpaulin on them. When I hear these grand things about how much we have recovered, I don't see it, you know. Because there are areas that I go to that still look like the day after the hurricane. It still looks like the day after the hurricane. You still have people that are living on a tarpaulin. You still have children that go to school, the lower grades Monday to Wednesday and the upper grade Thursday to Friday. That is the reality of what is taking place there. So when we are going to talk about the surplus that we have, and that no actuarian has said to us that this will damage the financial position of the NHE, then why have we not taken a decision then to use some of those funds to ensure that we can restore dignity to the people of the constituency? But
my heart is
for
full.
the grace of God, it could have been any one of us. But for the grace of God, it could have been any one of us that would have suffered that damage. It is our duty and our responsibility to ensure that we do justice to those people who have suffered the damage. And so, Mr. Speaker, until the day when I hear of some meaningful assistance to the people of Eastern Westmoreland, I will never stop speaking.
Wow. Thank God for representation like a Dr. Dayton Campbell that actually care for the most vulnerable of the people. You know, for those that watch this reaction, I want you to look at the facial expressions, the body language of the current government when these very serious issues and realities of the people in Eastern Westmoreland and all the other places that was damaged by the hurricane. I want you to look at the Prime Minister and how he's reacting. They have no care for the people. It is so clear to me that they don't, and that's why I have no respect. Leroy Clark even talking about wrap up when the man have 14 minutes left on the clock. The man have to fix him business and make him know, say, I have now read the standing orders, and there will be no bullying of me ever again in the House. And I'm so happy that the People's National Party has taken criticism on the chin from people like Mr. Will Rattigan and others that have demanded them be sharp on the standing orders so they can represent us way better. And I'm telling you, I have seen massive improvements. Shout out to the Gensec. He is back, ladies and gentlemen. And shout out to Marky G for continuing to burn the fire. That 1-2 puncher, hey man, I'm telling you, ain't nothing like the two of these men. Can you imagine them in leadership? What they would do for the people? Man, we really dropped the ball on September 3rd, man. Collectively as a people here in Jamaica, we really dropped the ball. Wow. Let me know what y'all think in the comment section, man. Let me know what y'all think. All right, so there were more contributions that are. Yes, this one right here. Oh man, I gotta capture this all by itself. Lord of mercy. Lord of mercy. Hey. These two contributions. Who else did come up? Yes, them three. I catch all of them back on there. Jamaica, me a work tonight, you know? Yes, man. All of them 4 contributions I catch back on there. All of them. Ladies and gentlemen, we have Anthony Hilton, Kenneth Russell, Damian Crawford, and Fitz Jackson in this one. Yeah, man, we have captured all of them. Man. Let's get into it.
Mr. Speaker, I'll be very brief. Very brief. But let me say, Mr. Speaker, I had to make my contribution on this matter today.
Dr. Nas was great.
Mr. Speaker, I have been member of Parliament for this is the 5th term for Western St. Andrews, and I have been continually. It's too much noise now. I've been consistently arguing for an housing relief program in my constituency. Consistent, with no success. Mr. Speaker, if I were told today that this amendment was being sought to ensure that housing agencies like the HAJ, which is part of the housing solution in this country, is being considered as part of the funds from this project, then I would be assured that the mission continues about providing reasonable housing for people who need these housing. I propose housing programs. And the NHT, which has been invited to examine and to look at the housing program, have told me that they cannot participate in it because their survey says the persons do not qualify. Now, when we too much noise, man, too much noise. When the fact of the matter is that the demand for the houses are clear, palpable.
You are losing your muscle. If you're over 60, don't ignore.
Sure. Yeah, I say sometimes I burn for the advertisement there, man. Sure.
And so houses are, and the demand for the houses are clear, palpable. And so, Mr. Speaker, when I look at the bill and the terms of the bill, I first of all want to agree with the member that the objects and reasons are very wide, and for those of us who are concerned that the housing trust be put back and that its mission be strengthened and refocused, are concerned that this these resources is just a general raid and to use for general purposes. Important as that is. But I think the member before me spoke very clearly that when we were faced with IMF and the tremendous fiscal pressures, the challenges came that money from NHD shouldn't be used. You know, Mr. Speaker, what really is needed is we really need a proper dialogue on the NHD. That is really needed. We really need to showing off all of the hypocrisy and all of that. We really need to have a proper discussion about the NHD. It cannot be that every time, and the language here makes it very concerning, because it says this is just for general purposes, and the Prime Minister argues that the money is there, and someone else argues that if it wasn't there, where? And we'd have to impose taxes. No, this government has demonstrated dexterity in coming up with some creative solution with forward sales of airports and all kinds of different things. And so, no, I don't mind anything. I'm simply saying, I am simply arguing the point. I am simply arguing the
Desmond Mackenzie, sit down, go home and be with your grandchildren. You don't have no substance contributing to any conversation. Talking about bad mind with a done self. Let's continue.
Come on, man. Come on. So, no, come on. Seven terms is a great deal. You don't get no 7 term by not saying anything. And you shut up yourself. You shut your mouth. Shut up your mouth. Okay? You don't want me to. Anyway.
Hey, you know, I have never seen and I've never heard Anthony Hilton tell somebody to shut their mouth. That is how disgusting the behavior of the Jamaica Labour Party members are in the house. Where a man like this that carries himself so upright have to tell you to shut your mouth or you're being disrespectful. How disgraceful. Mighty God.
Anyway. No, please. So, Mr. Speaker, my point is simple this. We have not had a proper conversation about NHT and the use of the resources of NHT. And if today what was here was a proper conversation, a consistent dialogue about the NHT and the use of those funds from the NHT, then I think someone like me who have real concerns about how we address the housing situation in an inner city constituency like Western St. Andrew would be very keen to understand that and to participate in that. Mr. Speaker, it cannot be that we're here talking about just a general relocation to avoid taxation when the object and mission of NHD is being again watered down. It's being watered down. We need, and those of us who are concerned about housing as a critical element of the human development and the human condition want to understand that what we are focused on is addressing the issues of concern, that the NHT be restored to a place of primacy, that the resources there are not watered down, so that we have all kinds of arrangements and mortgages and all kinds of other arrangements that seeks to undermine and have the effect of undermining the strength and the clarity of NHT and its focus of providing houses for the Jamaican people. I am concerned, Mr. Speaker, and I expect that when the opposition leader says, had there been some discussion, we might have come to some arrangement. Because those of us who are concerned about energy, and I think properly so, need to know that this is not an open-ended, and we just use them. And the reason why the debate, the negotiation and discussion wasn't had is because we have the numbers on the side. So if you have your number on your side and you're going to pass it anyway, well, why the conversation? You said people voting as majority government. You don't need a conversation. So what support you need from the opposition at this point? What support do you need from the opposition at this point? Mr. Speaker, we have to be much more intentional about this.
I am so happy he said that, because that is the mentality of the Jamaica Labour Party, and they are showing up their nasty mongrel dog-like selves in the parliament when the man is trying to make an excellent point. Let's continue.
You have to be much more serious about this, because you have a statutory institution that is being cannibalized in important ways. We need to refocus the debate on the NHT, and to make sure that we continue to have an agenda and a mission to provide housing for those who need it, including contributors, but more than contributors, those need housing in Jamaica. And if this were the bill, I would be supporting it. This is not the bill that requires our support. The majority, they have the majority to support this bill for general purposes, and so let them vote for this. I will not be voting for this.
Western, if the citizens of St. Catherine Northwestern would have been confused by the suggestion that I'm now in St. Catherine North, and understanding the quip by the opposition side or the other side of how often I move, I want it to be clear that I still remain in St. Catherine and have not insisted on moving my fellow Catherine North. But notwithstanding, there is a Bible verse that came to mind. That said, even the birds have their nest, and the fox have their den. In that case, it says, but the Son of Man had nowhere to lay his head. It is not in the exact form, but it does capture our reality as a country. That there are many human beings that have been denied one of the most basic needs of having shelter over their head. Indeed, I read recently in the newspaper that over 50% of Jamaicans had indicated that their intent in the next few years is to migrate from Jamaica.
Very important.
Indeed, I have always had a concern of a person being termed a squatter in the only country that cannot deport him. If it is you have no place in the only place that cannot ask you to leave, there is a need for those in charge of policy to be more committed to shelter and housing moving forward. Now, the government, I'm coming to that. The government has gained great political value from trumpeting the argument, no new taxes, and in seeking to cover the natural expenses of government. And that was very important to be highlighted by Member Fort, Malahu Fort from St. James. Is it Northwestern? West Central, who indicated that government had expenses and that there shouldn't be a space with funds available that government refused to use. There is an important explanation that must be highlighted, that no one on this side is asking for the non-use of available funds. Indeed, we're asking for the purposive use, to use those funds for a purpose.
This is why Damian Crawford is the teacher. How well articulated. Let's play that again. He just totally destroyed Marlene Malawu Fort's argument. That's why I told you I vehemently disagree with her, but he just put the way he framed that a while ago. Oh my God.
Who indicated that government had expenses and that there shouldn't be a space with funds available that government refused to use. There is an important explanation that must be highlighted, that no one on this side is asking for the non-use of available funds. Indeed, we're asking for the purposive use, to use those funds for a purpose that we on this side believe is important. It therefore must be highlighted if those on the other side are not of an equal commitment to solving the crisis of housing that we face. That crisis can be captured in over 600,000 being perceived and defined as squatters. And it extends itself to over 150,000 who wants but cannot get. You see, when it was highlighted that there is no demand problem, nobody needs to say that the Prime Minister's actual words, in quotation, verbatim, was that there is no demand problem. But if it is that you have over 150,000 demanders who cannot access true supply, then there is no demand problem. There is, however, a supply problem. When we speak to the funds available to NHD, the question that first should be asked is if there are any systems that NHD can facilitate to help to reduce the supply problem. Therefore, we will look at the access to capital. Can NHD give greater access to capital? We would not have been
in any form of dissent if NHD had concocted a method of giving greater access to capital. The second component is that we need an active and capable labor force. One of the greatest shortage in construction is an active and capable labor force. We sell the notion of 3% unemployment without indicating to the public that it doesn't include the 727,000 Jamaicans who have given up on finding work, refused to engage, and almost over 100,000 more who are underemployed. Just 2 days, 1 hour for the week, counted as employed. So if there was a design to increase the competence of the labor force, whether through working with heart or otherwise to create a construction corps that would eventually be able to build more houses, practical experience on the job, right? Learning from others, certifying those who learn from them, uncle. If you were partnering with heart, there would have been no objection on this side. Natural resource through land. A lot of the people who can't even get a start, who are being perceived as squatters, is because they can't access land. If there was a strategy, and I don't know how JLP, the government side, all of a sudden start to speak to, oh, that was your idea. You have never shown a reservation to stealing ideas in the entire life. So those that are good, the Prime Minister indicated that he was the best baby father. And if any good idea is there, he would take it. He needs some milk. How can he need some milk?
You know, Andrew Holness is so shameless, he's beating the bench. That he stole the ideas from the People's National Party. I want the labor rights to just, this is a great freeze frame. This is Andrew Holness beating the bench, admitting to the facts, right, through his gesture, that he has stolen the ideas of the People's National Party and used them for many, many years. He has now admitted the fact that he has no ideas, no good ones, because he has no real care for the people of Jamaica. And the People's National Party is his conscience. Sad. This mockery and gimmickry of the people of the country. Wow.
It's a strategy. And I don't know how JLP, the government side, all of a sudden start to speak to, oh, that was your idea. You have never shown a reservation to stealing ideas in the entire life. So those that are good, the Prime Minister indicated that he was the best baby father. And if any good idea is there, he would take it. How can access to land not be perceived as a good idea? But in addition, we come into that. In addition, we also heard the leader suggest the time that is being proposed. Because there was before Melissa 10 years that this government consisted and continued to raid the ban. And in raiding the ban, sold a lie that there was no new burden on the people. Yet you're taking the resources of the people. The difference between a trust and a tax is that in a trust, it is held on your behalf. In a tax, it is removed and used as the government sees fit. And so if the government sees fit to pay wages, it does so. If they see fit to print all these things that has been printed here for a speech that can be seen, will be emailed to us later, it is going to be done in the same way. If they see fit to do whatever whims and fancy come to mind, it is not held on behalf of the people. So, as the member from Eastern Westmoreland indicate, that as it's being operated, the NHD can be perceived as assisting the better off through the contributions of the worst off. as is being operated. But there is nothing within the rules of the NHT that disqualifies fixing that. I will tell you of one of the things that stuck with me when my father died when I was 15 years old. And I'll mention his name for the record, George Crawford. When he was sick, he said, I can only leave you advice. I'll never forget that. He said, me can't give nothing but advice. As a little boy, them time, you know why you're not where your parents are. And so in talking to you, he must say, yo, me have nothing else to give other than advice. As I got older, I said to myself, how did he feel that he couldn't leave me a house? He couldn't leave me a car. He never even drove a car. He said he had nothing but advice. And since then, I became committed to the concept of willing NHT to your children. Because at that time, I couldn't use his funds. But he worked all his life, contributed to NHT, and died with it. If he could will that NHT to me, how much quicker would I have been able to own a piece of property? If that was a proposal here today, none of us would have been in resistance.
Yo, that's powerful. Jamaica, we need the People's National Party in government immediately. That is powerful. Willing the points. Imagine your parents live all their life and they contribute to NHT, and those points cannot roll over to you. You know how powerful that would be? You would instantly qualify. Instantly qualify for an NHT loan. That would really put credibility and put a new purpose to the NHT. We really need to get the People's National Party in government. I don't care what none of y'all want to say. All you people out there, oh, PNP is the same thing. Shut up. Respectfully, of course. I don't want to hear none of that. Don't text my phone. Don't come in my comment section talking about, oh, the two of them is the same thing. I don't want to hear none of that. This right here, there's just too much evidence that is a bold-faced lie. This man is talking about his own story, his father. Wow, powerful. Let me play that back.
I never drove a car. He said I'll never forget that. He said, me can't give nothing but advice. As a little boy, them time, you know why you're not where your parents are. And so in talking to you, he must say, yo, me have nothing else to give other than advice. As I got older, I said to myself, how did he feel that he couldn't leave me a house? He couldn't leave me a car. He never even drove a car. He said he had nothing but advice. And since then, I became committed to the concept of willing NHT to your children. Because at that time, I couldn't use his funds. But he worked all his life, contributed to NHT, and died with it. If he could will that NHT to me, how much quicker would I have been able to own a piece of property? If that was a proposal here today, none of us would have been in resistance. Right? I don't assume come to that. But I knew that many a Jamaican who are on their deathbed wish they could sign a paper that I have nothing but done what I have worked for you. That can change within the day. If that was before us, no one would have been in opposition. Additionally, it is indeed a different conversation. But the more the money is taken, is the less we can afford the things we are discussing. It is not unlimited funds. So therefore, when the barn is ready, there's no fruits to deliver to the people. But because the law does not define the principle, I hear the member from St. James talking about the law has changed. The principle that was defined was that this was an important spend for the housing needs of the people. How much of us in here? I mean, most of us had equal experience. Well, when you come off a bus, no one turn up in your yard because there's zinc fence and your dirt road. You walk past the yard till bus driver. How much of us in here would wish that NHT would have considered that most of the reserve funds that were not claimed by those same people whose children walk past the zinc fence and walk past the money? How much of us? We move again to that fact. That
man, yo, he's destroying Marlon Malahou-Fort's argument effortlessly. I'm talking about this is some surgical stuff, man. Yo, man.
Housing isn't defined only by the walls and the shelter, the roof. Look at Olaba now, who needs a high school with greatest import. The Olaba shift system now have almost 1,500 per each shift, because the housing development that happened in Olaba never came with the infrastructure that was needed to make adequate citizenry. This proposal is not to build a school for those communities, or to transform the schools that we have experienced, that when I go to my school now, is the same setup as when I was in school. You go to a school in 2026. When I was at KC in 1991, it is the same setup as now. And you don't say you use NHT to improve the school infrastructure because most people go to a school closest to their yard. Are we not of that understanding that primary schools were built in walking proximity so that people could have access to adequate schooling is what we have now, where you're dividing a class with chalkboard adequate schooling? Would we on this side have been in any way not support if you were putting in that infrastructure? And then how much people taxing now go for them yard? How much road work now in West and Eastern Westmoreland and Nova that a person have to walk half the way because no vehicle will go there? There's a place in Northwest St. Catherine called Bermody. I wrote to the Ministry of Education that no taxi goes to Bermody. No delivery truck wants to go to the school. A 7-year-old in walking from Bermody was raped. What? And we don't have a school work program, but we have a farm road program. So you have a farm road program, but we don't have a school road program. It is important to get out the farm goods, but it's not important to get the children. If NHT was going to improve school roads so that those within proximity could access, none of us would have been in opposition. So selling this thing as if we are proposing that NHT money should be left in abeyance, nothing like that is true. We on this side have gone in most cases through the suffering of inadequate housing, through the suffering of squatting community, through the suffering of inaccess to water and adequate electricity. I am saying to you, my friend, that if you were transferring some funds to rural electrification so as to appropriately carry electricity to communities that have to stretch wire, you have indicated you're taking it to the consolidated fund. And what we are saying is not the non-spending of NHT money. It is the likely misspending when it goes within the consolidated fund. So what I'm saying, you can't stop me too. What I'm saying, multiple housing schemes have not received any investment in infrastructure in the longest time. Multiple houses have been lost because hydrants have not been maintained. Multiple people have suffered the indignity of being bulldozed from their houses and their property. We don't have to talk about Clifton. All we're saying on this side is that if housing is as important to you as it is to us, ring-fence housing money on behalf of housing. And that's all we're saying. Both directly in the walls and the roof, and indirectly in the communities and the access to that which is human. One way we can always quickly spend is on the basic schools that I'm carrying you to court for in very short time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Why Damien Crawford, may I tell you, say the core of this man, the core of Damien Crawford passion is always the children. Always find a way to incorporate the children, and I'm so happy that he is a member of the People's National Party, because he would be a misfit if he was a Labourite, you know. He couldn't be a Labourite. He couldn't be a Labourite. When you look at them over there, it's like you're looking at a wall. They are not even listening. They are tone deaf to the people's cry. Let's continue.
You know, the the Prime Minister and the Minister, my neighbor to the north, when they spoke, they gave the impression that money is no issue. There's unlimited. They didn't say that resources available to the NHD. Now, what that tells us is that we're actually in a worse place than personally I realized. Because when I look at what Melissa did to housing stock in my constituency and across the country, Prime Minister, it would seem to me that this conversation, this debate could be avoided. We should be having a more civil consultation about how we address those challenges. How is it that we move from this non-issue that we have with supplies, the inability to supply, to find solutions? How is it that we ensure, for example, that construction is done locally at community level? How is it that we ensure that the capacity is built in our institutions to deal with this supply problem? Because if we truly have the resources and we truly care about how our people are living, then we could avoid this debate. Because nobody on this side isn't saying, do not draw down. We're talking about how it's being done. We're talking about what it is going to be used for. And we're talking about the fact that it is inconsistent with the needs that we see on the ground. From Chidixon to Lloydersville to Camperdown to Monade, every house that we look at could use some support, even those that were not blown off by the hurricane. Now we're seeing the leaks, those that are covered by the tarpaulins, even the tarpaulins are falling apart. We have a serious problem, Prime Minister, and to take this money in this way without specificity about how it's going to be used is a problem. But I want to read for the House something, because I want us to understand how people are living who are unable to construct on the lands on which they live, even though some of them are NHD contributors. So imagine every year you get a notice, and in that notice, it says in part, and take further notice that the reason for requiring you to cease occupation, vacate, and deliver a possession of and remove any fencing and or temporary structures erected on said property is that you are in illegal possession of property which is owned by the Commissioner of Lands. It goes further to say that if you fail to cease occupation, vacate and deliver up possession of the said property as required under the terms of this notice, you will be forcibly evicted. Thousands of our people every year. This is the notice that the people in Pine Walk in Beachertown, they get it every year. They panic every time. They cannot construct in a way that gives permanence. They cannot construct in a way that gives value to the land on which they live. They are given these notices every year. They are treated worse than squatters, as illegals in their own country. And so these two issues of housing and land should not be separated, because the conversation that we should be having is about how do we ensure that our people feel safe, our people have stability, our people, especially our young people, don't feel as though they have to go somewhere else in order to make a life. Prime Minister, I know this is close to your heart, so I want to speak to this, because one of the things I see increasingly these days is young women, usually single mothers. They come, they want to start something. And it breaks my heart, because what they want to start, oftentimes they want some plyboard. They want a basement, a concrete base that they can put up 4 or 6 sheets of plyboard on to start a little house. In this day and age, we should not be subjecting our people to this. And if we're serious about the money being drawn down from the NHT to be used to ensure that we're more resilient after Hurricane Melissa, we should dedicate the money to the construction of houses. Now, while we have heard the argument that the money is because of Melissa, it's a continuation of the situation but made worse by Melissa, we notice that there is no exit plan. 5 years seems unreasonable. But in addition to that, there is nothing mentioned about how it is that it is going to be used specifically to address what Melissa has caused. But further to that, we're drawing down the same amount that we drew down before Melissa. And so the $57 billion which we're going to draw down over the next 5 years is not going to make any difference than what it has done in the past. It's not dedicated to the purpose for which you're speaking to. But, you know, the other contradiction
You know, several times I have watched Mr. Kenneth Russell make critical contributions to the House of Parliament, and several times I've seen members of the Jamaica Labour Party scoff at the point he's making, and I believe it's strategic. Because what the man just said a while ago is critical, you know. You're saying that it's for Hurricane Melissa. Then why are you drawing the same amount of money that I usually draw? Hurricane Melissa damage is astronomical. So if it truly was for Hurricane Melissa, basically he's exposing the farce of the idea. He's exposing them for being liars, Jamaica. All right, they are using Hurricane Melissa as a tool to just carry out whatever they want to carry out. That is not that. If it was really about Hurricane Melissa, it would be more money that they would be drawing out, and that's a fact. That's a fact. Let's continue.
And so that it is going to be used specifically to address what Melissa has caused. But further to that, we are drawing down the same amount that we drew down before Melissa. And so the $57 billion which we are going to draw down over the next 5 years is not going to make any difference than what it has done in the past. It's not dedicated to the purpose for which you're speaking to. But, you know, the other contradiction, Mr. Speaker, the NHT contributors who were given a grant after Melissa, the grant maximum amount they could receive was $500,000. I know NHT mortgagers who lost their entire roof. That $500,000 is a drop in the bucket. It wouldn't allow them to really replace their roof. And so what we're seeing is that instead of building back in a way that allow people to be more resilient, we are building back vulnerability. A lot of our people are building back weaker, Mr. Speaker.
Where's the lie? That's what they're building back. Vulnerability. At the end of the day, this is going to be proven, unfortunately, if and when the next disaster hits this year. If another disaster hits this year, even close to the one, or even halfway close to the one that hit, we're at the strength of Hurricane Melissa, you're going to see the exact truth to what was said a while ago. Trust and believe that. But they are clueless.
To really replace their roof. And so what we're seeing is that instead of building back in a way that allow people to be more resilient, we are building back vulnerability. A lot of our people are building back weaker, Mr. Speaker, than they were before the hurricane. And so again, I come back to the central point that we're trying to make. We're saying, you knew the position of this side because we made it public as far as NHT funds are concerned. What the leader of the opposition was saying is that let us have a conversation because we are not stuck in a way that we would not listen to reason. We would have had a discussion that would take us to a place where we ensure that our people are better protected and that the resources of the NHT go to the purposes for which it is meant. And so I think what this is pointing us to is the need for us to have a serious discussion about how we protect our people, how we ensure that the resilience that we are aiming for is actually achieved. You know, I would love for us to actually make the time, Prime Minister, to have a discussion about this issue in a way that is free of the emotions that are in the House today, and in a way that truly put at the center the people, put people first and center as far as housing is concerned. As it is, it's not possible for us to support this bill. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Wow. Powerful contributions from Mr. Kenneth Russell, Damian Crawford, and Mr. Anthony Hilton. I'm talking about, man. This was, I know we're going to go to Mr. Fitz Jackson to close the show.
Good. Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the discussion
The discussion here this evening is very revealing. Mr. Speaker, I see the NHT's mandate reads, National Housing Trust is to increase and improve the housing stock in Jamaica while providing affordable, low-interest financial assistance to help qualified contributors build, buy, or repair their homes. When I look at the mandate of the Housing Agency of Jamaica, it reads, to provide affordable, well-structured homes and shelter solutions for low and middle-income earners while improving living standards through the formalization and regularization of informal settlements across the island. Mr. Speaker, I made those references because just 2 weeks ago, I had a meeting with the Housing Agency of Jamaica regarding some housing issues in my constituency. Lacking in infrastructure while the community is seeking to develop. And the Housing Agency made it clear to me they have no money to support any improvement of any housing settlements in Jamaica. That's what they told me. Earlier on, Mr. Speaker.
What can go so
embarrassing?
He needs some milk.
And the Housing Agency made it clear to me they have no money to support any improvement of any housing settlements in Jamaica.
Wow.
That's what they told me.
Wow.
Earlier on, Mr. Speaker, I met with the chairman of the Housing Agency of Jamaica in regards to one of those very communities. Made a proposal for the costed infrastructure development in that community to be funded by the National Housing Trust, with the Housing Trust holding the titles for the persons. And the response I got is that the Housing Trust said that they don't have any money. In fact, the chairman himself was shocked because he embraced the idea of using the titles in these communities as collateral to facilitate this development. So when I come here today and I hear that the Housing Trust is awash with money that it can't spend, that it can put it in the consolidated fund, because there is no capacity, as the Prime Minister said, to build or to respond to the housing needs. It's a bit combobulated.
Something right now with some warriors.
So Mr. Speaker.
Right. Tell about them.
Jamaica, who is lying? Who is lying? The NHT or the Prime Minister? Who is lying? We had this issue with Darrell Vaz and the JPS. Who is lying? Wow, bro. Wow.
For me to come here today and hear the Prime Minister and other members of government saying that the abundance of resources in the National Housing Trust sitting idly by, and so they're going to use it to fund the consolidated fund. Both things can't be true.
Can't be true.
You can't have this glaring need for housing funding to the Housing Agency of Jamaica by the same government, and on the other hand, the same government have a surplus of money that they're not spending to solve the problem. As my friend from Northwest St. Catherine would say, what can go so? Both things can't be true at the same time. So you know, Mr. Speaker, in it all, there is just this consolidated hypocrisy when we talk about the funding from the use of the NHD funds. That's all it is. So I want to go back to my constituents to explain to them, why is it that there is this abundance of money can't be used in the housing trust and their housing infrastructure can be improved. I hope that I will get an answer to give them. But if I don't get them, I will know what to tell them. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Jamaica, this has been an exercise of massive exposure to this wicked, uncaring, evil, dirty government. I'm telling you, all the way through to every single contribution that has been made by the People's National Party representatives. Wow. Wow. Let me know what you guys think, man. This is wild. This money that is mandatory coming out of our pockets that we can, well, hey, listen. Hey, if you want things to change, Jamaica, let's change our approach. If you want things to change, let's change our approach. Period. God bless you all, man. See you on the next one. Ladies and gentlemen, I bid you guys a good morning. And yeah, see y'all later, man. Blessings. The word is love. Peace. I'm out. Thanks for being here. I actually ending this live earlier than expected. I told you guys around 3. It's 2:21. I feel good. I feel good. I knew that I would now. Salute to y'all, man. See y'all later. I'm out. Peace. Everybody, have a good morning. Have a good night wherever you are.